This is a clouds weather alert.
Good Thursday, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center tracking Hurricane Helene. We're in that landfall covers now. We do have a tornado warning that has been issued here in the last few moments for parts of Camden and Glenn counties as well. So we don't have landfall yet. It's still going to be a little ways away, but really trying to stick with you here for the most part through that. And we're just trying to guide you through a historic situation with Hurricane Helene. I know if we lose power here in this dark area where I'm at, we'll switch to a backup system. But we need to go to that tornado warning right now in Camden and Glenn. It's our command meant to be on for all tornado warning storms within the 62 counties. So let me go ahead and switch on over toward our other source right now. Let me go ahead and kind of give you guys a view of what is going on up there. We have a possible tornado in toward the Brunswick area right now. So we need to get folks into shelter. We have that radar indicated rotation there as we're looking toward Camden and Glenn counties. So getting an interior room away from windows as we're looking there right now because we have some indications there could be a tornado touching down. I know in these tropical setups, this is common. This is pretty common to have a tornado risk like this one here to where parts of Camden and Glenn counties right now, where you need to go ahead and take those tornado precautions. So again, just continuing to watch here very carefully as we look at the text of this warning. Let me go ahead and pull it up. So east central Camden and Glenn counties under this with the circulation moving northwest at 50 miles an hour. Brunswick there, St. Simon Island Village, Dock Junction, and Country Club Estates all in this polygon. So gotta take those tornado precautions as we're looking at things in toward this area. Let me back it up here to kind of give you an idea of how things were looking earlier. I know we've been just switching radars all over the place here. So let me go ahead and kind of load this back up. You can see how we had a pretty tight spin here a few moments ago in toward parts of Glenn County. So again, watching this scenario here very carefully and trying to see if there's been any debris with this. Nothing really definitive, but not something that can't be completely ruled out. But I know as you look down here into where some of these areas, it does look like there is a little bit of population down here. So as we kind of zoom in as tight as it'll let me. So you always got to be cognizant of these situations when you have scenarios like this one here. I mean, really, it looks like maybe up in here it could have been in that case, maybe not population, maybe, right near the edge of the spot between land and water. But nonetheless, the tornado warning's in effect as we watch the velocity scans here with our storm system Helene. With the tornado warning effect, we'll keep an eye on that tornado warning toward Camden and Glenn. But honestly, the hurricane itself, and it's been like this all day, the tornado warnings have been kind of just getting in the way here, to be quite honest. I mean, we've seen some spins here, but they haven't been generally overly intense. But they're making it, where sometimes it's diverting the attention away from a much more, much more greater threat as we look down toward the Gulf Coast with Helene itself. So we covered the tornado warning. Let's get down toward the Gulf Coast itself here now. As you see this eye wall, this is awful here, folks. I mean, we're going to start having extreme wind warnings, which, are going to be guaranteed tornado-like winds over a wide area here. So if you didn't evacuate, or if this, it's something where you're inland enough from the water, but you're still, going to get the winds with the extreme wind warning, you need to treat those like tornado situations here, folks. You need to treat those like tornadic situations when you have an extreme wind warning here in play. So again, something to kind of keep in mind here with this setup, with this situation. You can see here we have these winds look awful in here. These are now winds, 140 miles an hour, so up off the Tallahassee radar aloft, and it's starting to give me that, really thought of Michael here of what happened. Not maybe not quite to that extent, but it's going to be close, and it's going to be awful here as we get further up here toward parts of our region. Just a terrifying situation here with Hurricane Helene. You just hate seeing stuff like this as things evolve here. Just an awful scenario as we see here with Helene and that landfall getting closer and closer here. As you see that eye wall with all that lightning in it, and that shows signs of thunderstorm activity there, and it's a situation where it's not weakening, that's for sure. It is not weakening here, folks. It definitely seems like it is a strengthening hurricane. The satellite here is just, it's awful. It's awful. And this is just, making a beeline to the coast. You can see that eye here is so, so well defined on the infrared satellite. This is an awful situation. It's going to probably be a humanitarian crisis here toward the Big Bend region as we look ahead. That's how this serious of a nature that we're going to see from this here. It is just something that's going to be so tragic here as we look. So let's go ahead and pull up the graphics right now. The 8 o'clock update from the Hurricane Center, winds at 130 sustained. The pressure north-northeast, or excuse me, the movement north-northeast at 23 miles an hour. And the barometric pressure down at 942 millibars, which is just extremely low. That just tells the weather story here. That is a very bad one, a very terrible weather story with a pressure that low as we're looking at things here. Because that means the storm is so deep in terms of the intensification process that's occurred. So Category 4 means catastrophic damage. And as we go ahead and get into more details here, of course, Helene, we're watching. Isaac's not going to be an issue for us, but we'll watch some, tropical actions as we look at toward October here. I know the Helene coastal storm surge threat, 15 to 20 feet of storm surge. Care about a Swanee River. This is just something that is going to be unimaginable, unsurvivable storm surge coming on in from Helene, Hurricane Helene, changing lives forever, forever changed here along this coastline. And I really hope you evacuated. I mean, the window, we're seeing reports, now of surge up around Clearwater that's gotten very high, not to this level, obviously, but, in that range of 5 to 8 feet, it would seem. So, it's coming up the coast here is the point. That wall of water is coming on in here to cause devastation and catastrophic damage. 5 to 8 feet is bad enough. 10 to 15 feet, is worse. 15 to 20 is just like what you see in a movie pretty much. That's how bad this is going to be. It's like a tsunami pretty much coming in here on folks. That's why you can't be there when this happens. As we go ahead and look here, understanding the storm surge flooding, as this, the water's just going to rise so quickly here. You can see, over 12 feet. I mean, that's getting to the second story in a home. A second story in a home here. And it's just going to have awful, awful consequences. And then as we go ahead and look what happened, this is, 7 feet or so. Dixie County, and it's going to be maybe about twice that. I mean, this kind of tells you that was bad enough. And all the work they've done over the last year is just going out the window. And then as we look here, I updated this graphic here. Injuries and fatalities likely across the area. As in that pink color there, we're talking about gusts, widespread 90 plus. Some areas could have gusts, closer to 130, 140 miles an hour, which, is just something that you never want to think about around here. We're talking about in that pink zone, widespread significant damage. Some buildings destroyed and uninhabitable. Numerous trees down. Mobile homes are going to be blown apart in a lot of cases. Extended, long-lasting power outages. Now in the red area, I've had to nudge that east. I did the pink area too. I've had to nudge that east into Bradford County, so gusts to maybe 75 miles an hour, which is enough to knock out power in a pretty, widespread manner, it would seem. Hopefully they didn't verify like that, but definitely, a situation where we're leaning more toward widespread power outages now around Stark versus scattered. So I hope you charge your devices up here if you haven't done so already. And in the fringe impacts to the east, some trees down, isolated tornadoes like we're seeing that risk right now in toward Glenn County. So a dire, dire situation. That water's going to come up quick there in Levy and Dixie and Taylor, Jefferson, McCullough counties for sure. Franklin's a little bit tricky because they're on the back side, potentially with this nudge east, so you still got to be very careful, but maybe they'll be in a little bit better spot. But we still see you can't take any chances. You can't be there in this scenario. As we look here at our mapping, at about 8:36, the severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado is located near Dock Junction there in southeast Georgia. Camden's been canceled out of the tornado warning, but Glenn continues. It's moving northwest at 50 miles an hour here. And then we're going to go ahead and see what inland Hurricane Michael wind damage was like. And this storm's over quite a bit quicker than Michael did. It may be just a slightly bit weaker, the expectation of landfall than Michael was, but we're expecting similar damage will be likely even into South Georgia, like what they had in Mariana from Michael, with a lot of buildings blown apart, building collapses expected here. That's how serious of a matter this is here, folks, with Helene. And then we go ahead and see that rainfall forecast at 8 o'clock there on that Friday. You can see the rainfall there, is going to still be pretty significant around Tallahassee, especially in that Iowa wherever that sets one up. And then, as bad as that flash flooding threat's going to be around here, flash flood and tornado threats might not maximize in our area like the storm surge and wind threat definitely will. That threat, especially with the flash flooding threat, might maximize in western North Carolina. The Appalachian Mountains there around Asheville, could have tendency to rain over a pretty short period of time and have mudslides all over the place because they're not used to the tropical downpours like this. It could be catastrophic there. As we're looking at our mapping here, as we get up in here later in the timeline, and the interactive radar available, clouded.com/radar. And then I gone ahead and put evacuation here is crossed off now. You could still, chance it and try to get out because you gotta really, it's more if near that water and it hadn't come up yet, and especially with Cullah, Jefferson, counties there over toward Taylor, Dixie, Levy, get out because it's gonna come up so quickly. You're gonna be in a matter of life and death very quickly. A situation that's a matter of life and death. Uh, you know, as a basic disaster supplies kit. Hopefully, you have all this stuff handy. If you have it in your house, you might want to get it near you now. Water, non-perishable food, battery powered hand crank radio, no weather radio, flashlight, and first aid kit. And it's also hopefully you have the gas we've been talking about on hand. And radio.gov/kit has a full list. And if you're charging those devices, as power outage numbers are going to go up. And it's important to move to an interior room in a tornado/extreme wind situation. And then also after a storm moves through, it's important to stay away from power lines. And also generator safety is critical, very important to keep in mind because, that is, both of those, can be deadly after the fact with a storm coming on in. So let's see if there's any questions or comments here as we're live on the air right now to protect you, protect your friends, protect your family. Again, just trying to keep you safe and informed here. It's such a dire scenario that we're dealing with, and we got all our computer resources running here because there's just so much happening. So much, to talk about with this hurricane. It is just something that, is going to change people's lives. So let's go ahead now and see if we can kind of get up here, powered.us. I'm going to try to pull that up. Let me go ahead and go to that resource. Already looking at over 500,000 customers in the dark, electric customers in the state of Florida. So let me go ahead and pull that up here behind me right now. And you can see 527,862 customers in the dark. A lot of these outages are right along the west coast of Florida here. See a little, bump up in Bradford County, a little over 1,000 out right now, according to this. And you start to see Franklin going up a little bit, right there at the coast. So a nasty set of circumstances, I know. There's Bradford, Levy County, almost 4,000 now in the dark. Dixie County, about 1,000. Wakulla County, almost 1,000. Franklin County, almost 3,000 customers in the dark here. And as we get down the coast here, before we get out of our area, let's say this here. Dixie County, about 1,000. You have Citrus, about 7,000. Hernando, about 10,000. Pasco, over 50,000. I know the scope of this is going to make it harder for power to be restored because you're in a scenario here where, you're seeing so many folks out. It's just going to spread the power crews thin, unlike some of the more recent past storms, more like Irma in terms of how long it took to get power back on, maybe. Hillsborough County over 50,000 out. Pinellas over 150,000 now in the dark. Manatee County over 35,000. Sarasota County almost, 60,000 there in the dark. Charlotte County over 9,000. Lee County there over 36,000. So that's really telling the story here as the situation, worsens, and it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. I have, it's like the worst news possible, imaginable here tonight that I'm providing, our local viewers with, tragically, as we go ahead and continue to go through some of our different resources here. That eye is just so well defined as I go back over toward the infrared satellite here, the infrared satellite picture, telling the story, telling that little story. Look at all that lightning there as we're looking at things, as we're tracking the situation in that eye wall. It's just something here, to behold in a very bad way, as the strongest winds will be coming in pretty short order here. Let me go ahead and go on over to the radar there in southeast Georgia on our other source. Making an extension of that tornado warning here, western rotation west of I-95. Again, seeing some greens and reds really come together here. New tornado warning just outside of the area for more of this. You see by the Charleston office, as this kind of tries to maybe move out of Jacksonville, that leading one at least is. Again, we've been switching radars so much. There's just so much, going on here. And that area, leading area, is kind of going to the north. This area here, though, is going to bear watching as we look there, on the southern flank. So, again, a lot happening here. Again, tornado warnings here on the board. One with this in our area, one just outside of the area, but we may get an extension on the one within our covered area here over the next little bit. So, again, just continuing to track all of that. See gust 30, 40 here as we look further down toward the south, 50 even behind me and toward parts of Duval County, but we don't have near as many sensors out here, so it's going to be a little misleading as we look at things down here, but because probably these winds are just going to come in so quick, it's going to be knocking things offline left and right. So, okay, I'm seeing the tornado warnings expiring for Glenn. I'm going to trust that does not get extended. It very well might, but what we're probably going to do is come back at 9 o'clock here with more information, and obviously we'll be back by then if we don't need to be back earlier. That, leading area rotation there going in toward McIntosh County right now, just outside of the area, and, tornado warning towards Savannah as well here in this hurricane situation. This is, one of those hurricanes, unlike some of the others that have been smaller, this is one that's going to always be remembered because of the scope of it. I mean, this is a hurricane that is going to, impact people's lives for many years, no doubt, here as we're looking at this scenario. So there's a hurricane. Things are getting worse. We'll be back at 9. Probably go a little more long form by then as this is, getting really quick, moving up toward the coast here. So I'll see you in about 15 minutes unless we get another tornado warning, then we'll jump back in immediately. So keep it tuned to Cloud Weather. We'll keep you guys up to date with this hurricane warning situation, the storm surge warning situation, as we watch our Hurricane Helene get closer to landfall and get closer to having the extreme wind warnings as the surge numbers are going up. And we have devastation across our area and catastrophic damage so tragically, so terribly in some spots.
This is a clouds weather alert.
Meteorologist Casey Cloud back here in the Weather Center. We have a new tornado warning. I know a hurricane, though. The core of it is what stands out, but the tornado warning's in Glenn County. So let me go ahead and switch our sources here again. It's just been, kind of going back and forth between the hurricane itself, which poses a lot greater danger with the core, and then these tornado warnings, which, don't pose as great of a danger by a pretty wide margin, which is very unusual to say that about tornado warnings, but just comparison wise, the core of the hurricane is a much graver threat here that we're going to be tracking through the evening. But you can see here right now toward the coast, you can see the areas of rotation trying to just come on in here. And the Weather Service in Jacksonville said that at 8:48, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado is located over St. Simon's Island, moving northwest at 60 miles an hour. Country Club Estates there, it'll be near that around 8:45 or so, or 8:55, excuse me. So just here in a couple of moments, as we're checking that area out here with that concern, as we just, it had about gusts about 60 or so in the eastern areas here. We just got a couple of those. Mayport, a gust of 63 as we're getting that wind off the water. And the GFS model I've been showing last few days or so, showing that, and now a gust to 60 miles an hour at Jacksonville Beach, and getting reports of a tree uprooted, falling on a home in Palm Coast. I know we have the tropical storm warning, in play further over, but right by the coast, it can actually be a little bit of extra effect even on the Atlantic coast, but it's going to be much worse. Nothing compared to what they're going to see out there toward the Gulf Coast here. Again, I cannot, underestimate here, this impact. In fact, I cannot, talk about it enough about how grave of a danger we're going to have toward the Gulf Coast here. We're not talking about 60-mile-an-hour winds. We're not talking about 80-mile-an-hour winds, peaking on that, or 100, or 110, 120. We're talking about maybe gusts up to about 140 miles an hour at the coast there, the Gulf Coast, over the next little bit. So, these tornado warnings are secondary. They're just honestly, hurting people in terms of their preparation, and then, covering it. We're kind of having to be distracted by those where, we're telling them we have to cover those, but they're not the big problem here today. Granted, they can be a localized problem for a moment, no doubt. It's just the core of this hurricane is a much graver danger. It's a very unusual situation here for sure. And we need to go ahead and get back to the core of the hurricane now. So we cover a wide area, so that makes things a little trickier too. But you can see the core of the hurricane. We got to figure out exactly where this is headed to at this point, because it's moving so quickly, that forward speed. We're going to have a new update, new advisory from the Hurricane Center here pretty soon. They're doing hourly advisories, class updates here at this point. I mean, it's pretty obvious, that Dixie County is going to have some very big bad problems from this. Look at that wind. I mean, this blue here is something that you just never see on velocity. I mean, we're talking about winds 140 miles an hour in here. This east, is Horseshoe Beach and Swanee. And our velocity product now is trying to really throw some pretty strong winds over there, though. They may not be spreading as much, right into where some of those areas, because of the way this is with the eye wall. But we always have bad radar coverage in here, which makes things so tricky as we're looking at things. It makes things so tricky as we monitor the situation. It'll be interesting here and important to see how far north this goes, or how far east it goes here, because that impacts, quite a few different areas here. So we're watching this right now. Let me go ahead and step off the screen for a moment. I want to check some Dixie County weather stem sites here as we're monitoring the situation. So I'm going to step out of the shot here for a moment. I want to see what wind speeds we're getting here in toward this scenario. And we're also getting a new update from the Hurricane Center now. So let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and kind of check some of that stuff out as we continue to watch this. And we still have the tornado warning in Glenn County. Take your tornado precautions up there. Okay, this is not good news at all. Okay, we are now getting word that winds are now up to 140 miles an hour. So, when Michael hit, they said in real time that winds were 150. Granted, they did post-analysis and upgrade to a Cat 5, 160. So it's going to be one of the strongest hurricanes, grouping, to, not maybe one of the top few unless it hits Cat 5, but one of the, top several we've ever had to hit the U.S. is going to hit part of North Florida here. It's heartbreaking. We know in meteorology what Cat 4s, winds of 140 sustained are going to do. So now that's above the forecast really at this point. So now let's say gusts to maybe 150 miles an hour as we get towards some of these areas. This is just awful. Storms moving north-northeast at 24 miles an hour. I had a gust recently at 73 miles an hour at Cedar Key. Okay, we're starting to get the winds really picking up at the coast quickly now. Very quickly. Water level of 5 feet at Clearwater Beach according to a NOAA National Ocean Service tide gauge. So again, we're really starting to get the winds to pick up now. That's going to knock out power real quick here. Knock out power real quick in this set of circumstances. So I wanted to check some Dixie County weather stem sites in terms of maybe some wind speeds. But Levy, about hurricane force there, as I was alluding to. So Dixie County EOC only gust to 33 there. Some of these are going to underdo it, but want to get an idea on some of these winds. Some of these, sometimes they're estimates, but these look like official. Gust to 56 there, Horseshoe Beach. So, we're starting to see power get knocked out in a lot of these areas here, a lot of these communities that are going to be no longer, believe it or not, here after what happens tonight. I mean, now with the winds up to 140 miles an hour. So it's as awful as it gets here, folks. Let's go ahead and pull up the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. Now 140 sustained here as it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. One of the worst hurricanes in Florida history, one of the worst hurricanes in the history of the country, coming on in here as we look at the situation. Again, the breaking news, winds up to 140 sustained now. And, yeah, not good. Not good here. I mean, this is, exceeding some of the forecasts. Some of the models are showing this, and it's happening, and it's going to be, the nightmare. We've been trying to, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Well, the worst is going to happen. It's a guarantee now. Some areas, because of the track wobbles, are going to get luckier than others, but other areas are going to have this total and utter devastation. That it's just, out of the realm of, thought here. And we got some breaking news. Now an extreme wind warning. The first one issued here. Tornado-like winds coming on in. Okay, extreme wind warning. Lafayette County, northeastern Wakulla, northwestern Dixie, all of Taylor, all of Jefferson, eastern Leon, and all of Madison until midnight with extremely dangerous hurricane winds. Going to impact parts of Tallahassee, Woodville, Monticello, Mayo, Steinhatchee, St. Marks, Perry, Madison, Horseshoe Point, Wakulla, Greenville, Lee, Horseshoe Beach, Cody, Pinetta, Perry Airport there, San Pedro Junction, Natural Bridge, and Lake Miccosukee. We're going to have just winds that are going to rip things apart. I mean, that's the only way, to describe it here at this point. They're going to rip things apart. They're going to change lives forever. As we go ahead and continue here, I want to try to get the EWW on the screen here. It should load. It takes a few moments, but I have it set here in our system to load that as soon as it comes on up. This kind of gives you an idea of where the eye wall is probably going to move on in, a projection pretty much, a local, hyper-local, real-time projection, which would really be helpful for the viewers at home. So let me try to go ahead and I'm going to try to get it to update for me here. I know we still have a tornado warning in southeast Georgia, but this is way worse. I mean, it's just crazy to say something's way worse than a tornado warning. But, that's what we have now in our hands. A dire situation here. Okay, the warning hadn't quite loaded, but as soon as it does, we'll pop that up here. Let me look at it on while I'm off camera still. I know we're still in this a long time at scale, but it's a Cat 4 hurricane now. I just want to see what it looks like there on Twitter/X. I'll probably even just go ahead and put it out because this is something that, I mean, we had a Dahlia and that was really bad, and this is somehow a good bit worse. I mean, in several ways, which is just Wow. You thought Adalia was the one. And now look at this. Look at this situation, because you're in a set of circumstances here where all the hard work people have done over the last 13 months to rebuild is going to be, wiped away in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat here, as we continue the situation here. Again, a true emergency of epic proportions. I'm just trying to check here, see if I can get that EWW up. So I just want to see exactly where that's plotted. I might even just pull it up here a different way than we normally do, because this is, this is the story. I'm going to retweet that. We'll just go ahead and pull it up a manual way. I know it'll be in another system in a moment, but this is pretty much, this is pretty much going to be a map of the areas that are going to be destroyed. As bad as it sounds, some areas further in will be too, and coast areas maybe a little bit broader, but so getting that ready now. I don't normally do it like this, but this is such an important graphic. This is, worse than a tornado situation by a long shot here at this point. So just absolutely awful. I'm gonna get some things switched on here. I know we have a tornado warning in Georgia in our areas, but this is way worse. Tornado-like winds coming in. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna come back on camera now. I know it's a little bit dark. I know it's a little small, and we'll work on that here. But this is the extreme wind warning till midnight now. These are the areas that if you didn't leave and you don't have to get out because of the storm surge, you're not in a mobile home, this is the type of situation where you may need to, get that mattress ready to cover yourself like folks did during Hurricane Andrew back in 1992. So we're talking about east side of Tallahassee. So, the campus, they're going to get into it pretty bad, but there's a chance, according to this indication here and what I've looked at, they may miss the worst of the eye wall here, and that's good in terms of, the population density there. So I will say, that's also going to bring down, the damage number, but it may make it a story where it doesn't get quite as much attention. So these folks kind of get left behind a little bit more because of where this is hidden, an area pretty similar to Adalia. So we're talking about, eastern Leon County there, through eastern Wakulla around Newport, and then all of Jefferson County, these communities are probably going to be wiped out. Wassissa, Monticello, Asheville there. And then in the Madison County, we're talking about Greenville, Madison, Hanson, Shermans. You gotta, be ready to treat this like the worst tornado you've ever had in your life, because these are the type of winds, that you're probably going to be seeing. This is worse than Adalia for, these areas here. It's all the work everybody put in. That's what makes this even worse. It's all going to be wiped out tonight, and even worse. Perry, Pineland, down toward the beach there in Taylor County. Then in Lafayette County, you have Day, Mayo, Cook's Hammock, and then down into Dixie County, Steinhatchee, and Horseshoe Beach. Again, we're talking about areas here with this extreme wind warning. Winds probably, in that area, 115 plus miles an hour. That is just as bad as it gets. An extreme wind warning. And that's something that is just, heartbreaking. We're going to see some of these, further into Georgia, maybe even a little bit broader. But and Jacksonville may issue one for Suwannee County, Hamilton. We'll see how that goes. But this is the first one. This is where the eye wall is probably going to go over the next 3 hours. So this is a matter of life and death. And this is something we, have never seen in our area in terms of this being, a good bit worse than Adalia. Hopefully something we never see again. Winds not that far from what happened in Andrew in 92 and Michael in 2018, maybe slightly less, but you might not really be able to notice. We're talking about mobile homes being blown apart. If you're in a mobile home and you have a neighbor next door, a site-built structure, and you haven't left that mobile home, just beg them to come in there at this point, because that mobile home in this area is probably getting blown away, blown to pieces, because a tornado, pretty much a tornado this wide, with these type of winds, tornado-like winds are headed over this entire corridor here, and it's going to be heartbreaking. Let's go ahead and go back on over to some other maps here. Again, We have just so much happening, but this is the focus right now. We have the tornado warning in Georgia still. I haven't forgot about you guys in Glenn County. We'll go ahead and look up there uh, as we watch. I do have the EWW extreme wind warning on our system now. It did load, but I wanted to see that version of it first, and so that that was something that was so pertinent. But there's a tornado warning in South Georgia. We have some areas of rotation there. Brunswick North. Take tornado precautions. That looks pretty tight there. This tornado warning continuing to 9:15, so another 7 minutes or so. At 8:48, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. It's located over St. Simon's Island, moving northwest at 60 miles an hour. So take shelter in that area. Okay, but the winds are going to be a guaranteed type tornado speed as we look toward the EWW, which is the extreme wind warning, which is something that is a nightmare. So this is the area we're expecting the worst. We might have more of these, but this is the core of it, of devastation and catastrophic damage that we're expecting now. Pretty much for certain as we're looking here, unless we have some type of wobble one way or the other with this. And they have to issue some different ones, east and west. There may be some because of Jacksonville being involved in the movement into Georgia. We'll get some more probably, almost undoubtedly with it moving so fast. But these are areas that, have got to take, precaution as if their life depends on it, because your life does depend on it here in Perry. I mean, all the work you guys put in last 13 months after Dahlia. You had Debbie, it wasn't as bad, but now this coming on in, and it's just going to tear everything apart. I mean, this is quite a bit worse than a Dahlia, which, I mean, it's a nightmare saying something like that. Quite honestly, that storm was a nightmare, and this is a nightmare, that's escalated here. So you gotta take precaution right now here. We're talking about winds gusting, now with the storm at 140, gust to 150, really. I mean, we talk about, numbers lower than that, but really that whole corridor in theory could have gusts to about 150 miles an hour or so. And as we go to our tornado scale real quick, popping that up, that is like an EF3 tornado. You know how those are. I mean, those are the ones that are deadly, like what we had with the trailers ripped apart in Adele, Georgia there, back with 140 mile an hour winds in 2017. Albany tornado 150 mile an hour winds. This is over a wider area, in a longer period of time. So it's just awful. I'm gonna measure how long this is left to right. So just east of Crawfordville, this around Mayo or so. Just kind of measure this about 50 miles east to west. So it's pretty much like a 50-mile tornado, 50-mile wide tornado coming on in on these poor people. I mean, it's still gonna be bad in surrounding areas, power outages, but this is a life changer. And right now it's about putting that bicycle helmet on, putting that football helmet on, because this is a situation that for some, if you don't take the right precautions, this won't just be a life changer. It's life threatening, and it could be, it could result in the loss of your life and the loss of your family's lives. They got to put those bicycle helmets on like a tornado's headed their way here right now, because that's what's happening. About a 50-mile wide tornado is headed on in now that has winds, that are very significant. We talk about tornadoes, that's a big deal when they're a half-mile wide or a mile wide. This is a 50-mile wide tornado coming on in pretty much. Of course, we have, significant winds outlined, but that corridor is going to be chewed up like what we saw maybe in Homestead during Andrew, Panama City during Michael. There, all those buildings collapsed there. You had areas like Tyndall Air Force Base, the trees snapped. Let's go ahead and try to go over some of those photos here from 2018 to give you an idea of what some of the damage might look like. So let's go ahead and go over there now. I'm hearing the wind pick up a good bit where we're at here east of Stark, by the way. Nothing like what they're going to see, but pressure down to 995 millibars, winds up to 24. I mean, it's at a lower level. It's higher than that really, but that's measuring at 6 feet. But again, just continuing to watch here. And that's the 995 pressure is about the lowest I've seen on that barometer still since I've been using it over the last, several years. But It's not something like low as like what we had in Arma in Bradford, the 970s with that pressure in that range, at least on another barometer that I used to use. But looking here, let me go ahead and pull up some of the micro images here that we have. I mean, we've shown you the one in Mariana, but there's a lot worse ones here. Okay, so let's go ahead and kind of go over what we're talking about at this point. It just looks like we're, edging there, but maybe a few miles per hour less, as we've talked about, but close to a Category 5. New tornado warning, 9:30 now, Glenn County. At 9:12, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado is located in your country club estate near Dock Junction, moving northwest at 55 miles an hour. So make sure you're taking your tornado precautions up there into towards southeast Georgia. New tornado warning now going to be on that screen till 9:30, and you see the accent there, I-95 and the like. Blast flood warning, new one for part of a whole region there: Dixie, Franklin, Gaston, Jefferson, Lafayette, Leon, Madison, Taylor, and McCullough till 3:15 a.m. We're talking about, flooding there that, I mean, is, going to be coming in association with the worst of this hurricane. Let's go ahead right now and go back on over toward another mode here. So this is what happened in Michael, folks. I mean, you see the image down toward Mexico Beach, and things just chewed up there. And now we're getting two storms, of really big consequence in 2 years. 13 months down toward the coast, and if you include Debbie, which is lesser, than we have 3 storms and 13 months hurricanes. But the one that's coming in tonight is the worst by a wide margin. And this is, similar to the damage they could expect down there. This is a couple months after the storm, down there in Mexico Beach in 2018. So it's awful to think about that. Another look at that damage there. Category 5 catastrophic event. You can see a building collapsed in Panama City. That's a look at that. And then the trees there at Tender Air Force Base is snapped. I mean, the way this, hit, honestly, it affected the weather pattern a little bit, it would seem. Just so much of the vegetation being lost, and now we're going to see consequences like that there, and, even in the South Central Georgia, it would seem, to some extent. So it's as bad as it gets here in the meteorology world tonight. We really thought, maybe we'd get lucky, in terms of, in that, what are the odds? An area that's never been hit by a hurricane this strong, one to come in almost the same area a year later or so, even stronger than last year. This was so, that was so unprecedented. This is even worse. And here we are. So let's go ahead and pull this up. Your eye wall. These winds here closing on in. Surge is mountain here in toward these areas. And you have this devastation that lies in the wake here of the activity. Let's go ahead and check here, see if we have any questions or comments from any of the viewers at home. I don't see anything right now, but again, thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me. Let me go ahead and see where I want to go right now. I know I want to talk about the acts in there with that extreme wind warning, kind of extrapolate out here with that. So again, we're watching the hurricane, we're watching a tornado warning in Georgia, but now we have the extreme wind warning here, that is of dire consequence. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking the situation, it's of dire consequence here. And the storm surge warning that's been in play for a while has been of dire consequence. Obviously, up there in the Gulf Coast region, we could have 20 feet of storm surge. So it's absolutely heartbreaking. Let's go ahead and go over here toward another mode. You can see how that light in that eye wall, it's getting closer and closer now here to impacting these communities, as this is going to be a disaster zone for some folks yet again. As we look here toward this area, toward that region, the extreme damage that we're anticipating. It's pretty much, it looks like a similar type of a diary, just a tad bit west, but not by much at all. And the storm is bigger too, so that's something to keep in mind. Maybe just a tad bit west of Idalia, but again, not by much here. As we look at things, as we track this on out here, let's go ahead and kind of extrapolate here. So, pretty much as you look at the areas that'll be next in line after the extreme winds go to these communities, you're talking about a corridor from about Valdosta west to about Thomasville, where you're going to have, accident, sadly, like what they had, like around Marietta, there in Michael, where buildings were collapsing. And, as well, as we're going to have more of those even down to the south. But mobile homes is, blowing apart here. We're talking about roofs ripping off of homes. Even well-built structures are going to have big problems here. I mean, it's just something that is as sobering as it gets here. But it's a guarantee at this point, pretty much, that it's coming on in. And, if at your last resort, get that. If the roof blows off your home, you need to have that mattress ready to go ahead and put over yourself here. You need to go ahead and have that mattress to put over yourself to protect yourself from the flying debris here that'll be coming on in. I mean, it's that bad. Just to be real here, that's what happened in Andrew 92. A lot of folks, they needed to have their mattress to put over them to protect yourself from the flying debris, like what we had there, and then you think of what happened in Homestead. So many of the buildings just devastated. We're going to have, communities in this corridor like that, like Homestead, with the devastation it would seem. Again, the extreme wind warning, again, we're talking about, how we have to talk about this stuff in a way that, you really never want to talk about here, but this is it. This is the storm of record for these areas now, the worst one to ever hit coming on in. The surge values will be going up. Let's check the direction on this. We have just 100 different directions to go here because this is a dire storm. But let's go ahead and kind of switch on over here to another mode, our wind arrows. So they've already had a bad surge around Pinellas now. And then we're going to be watching to see these arrows switch. So right now, as the last check anyway, we had, and it's moving so quick, it's switching probably right on us. So it's probably starting to really switch around Cedar Key here, and high tide is only a couple hours away. So there's not many gauges out here. There is a gauge at Cedar Key, so I'm going to have to keep checking in on that one. Let me go ahead and see if I can pull that up here. We have it up in our system, to some degree here. We have so much up because there's just so much happening. But I'm going to try to effort that here so I can kind of watch that here a little bit more because it's just so serious. It's so bad. Towards Cedar Key, that water rise is going to be rapid. It's going to be as bad as we've ever seen here towards some of our area with that rapid water rise. Their computer's just working so hard. This is, something we've been warning you guys about for days here. And that surge threat is just going to be something that is, I look here, we were tracking a potential tropical cyclone, not even before that, and now it's a Cat 4 hurricane bearing on down here. Let me go ahead and step out here real quick. Our system is just really lagging tonight because there is just so much data that we went to already all those tornado warnings and the like. So let me go ahead and step out here real quick so I can get an idea of some of these numbers. It's just me here running things in the Weather Center, so bear with me. But let me go ahead and zoom on out again. We watch this here. We, watch it get closer very quickly. I need to take that gauge, see what the numbers are as we watch this situation. Again, we still have a tornado warning in Glenn County. Take your tornado precautions up there. Possible tornado there. The last check. Looking like near Country Club Estate or near Dock Junction. Moving northwest at 55 miles an hour. Again, trying to get an idea on the storm surge here. Again, trying to make sure we get that number for you guys, the viewers at home. Such a historic situation, obviously. So again, storm surge warning in play. Oh, it's really shooting up very quickly now. We're now, I mean, it's shooting almost straight up here on this. We're in a moderate flooding there. It's about 4 feet. That doesn't sound that bad, obviously, but the way it's shooting up on the graph is something I gotta show you guys here, and I will in just a moment. I mean, that tells you what's happening now. That wind direction is shifting around and causing, big problems. Causing big problems here to the different communities as the situation does progress here. It's so substantial, so serious. A historic storm for the ages here, as I continue to reiterate. As we go ahead and look at things, I know just to continuing to try to give you the very latest here to protect you, your friends, and your family. I'm going to get this pulled on up here. Bear with me. Cedar Key, there's not many gauges out there, so that's why we kind of have to use that one. But 10 to 15 feet's been the projection. They're having high tide here coming up, in pretty short order, so not good. Okay, tornado warning expiring out for Glenn County. That's good news, but there's not much good news at all tonight, as you can tell. This is a guaranteed disaster, 100%. A disaster out toward the west. Any hope of things turning out better have ended. I mean, maybe Tallahassee proper, doesn't get it quite as bad as they could have, especially West Tallahassee. Still bad, but not as bad. But Perry, it's not gonna end well in Perry. As I go ahead, let's go ahead and get this up, this source now. Let me go ahead and kind of show you guys here what we're talking about. I know, just continuing to give you the latest. Of course, we have those winds coming in that are going to be so serious as well, and then couple that with a storm surge, and you have an absolute disaster on your hands. So here's this. So if you look at these maps, or in this case, a graph, you see that just a jump here, and it's probably going to keep going straight up here, maybe, well above that major flood criteria. I mean, it's just going up as quick as you can go here. I'm going to put the mouse on here, and, as we kind of look, I mean, that's about 4 feet or so there, and then it goes even, tries to go, it looks like a little higher than that. I try to get the mouse right on it, about 4 feet. But, it's going to keep going higher and higher now. That wind direction pushing in, high tide coming. A disaster for Cedar Key and Levy County. Disaster up the coast coming here as well as those wind directions switch here. So, not good stuff at all. Let's go ahead and jump back on over to another mode. Let me go ahead and we'll keep an eye on that. I know power.us here. Let me go ahead and kind of get that up for everybody at home. Over 630,000 out in the state now out of electricity. Let me go ahead and kind of give you guys an idea of what we're talking about with that. It's just going to keep getting higher and higher. We're going to have, widespread outages, obviously, in Taylor County here very soon. And there's other areas under the extreme wind warning as well. I mean, even Leon's going to have a lot. They're not maybe going to get it quite as bad in Tallahassee proper as they could have, but it's still going to be bad enough. So far, very little out in Taylor, but that's going to change. Dixie's over 1,000. Levy's over 7,000 now in the dark as the threat goes up the coast. I mean, at least it's not, just widespread outages in these west, Florida counties, but there's still a lot. I mean, they add up to a lot, and it's gonna, make the crews be spread thin here, because I know the attention sometimes gets more down toward Tampa because, big media market. The damage isn't gonna be near as bad down there, bad enough, but it's gonna be worse in the eastern fringes of the Tallahassee market, especially here and into South Georgia, really into that Albany television market. And sometimes those areas, unfortunately, don't get the national attention that they deserve. So that's going to make it maybe harder to get resources. It's still going to be bad to the images. But as we go ahead and kind of look at things, we look at the situation here. I know Franklin, almost about 3,000 out there. I thought I'd say that to you real quick before I cut away from that view. And now I know it's not the worst yet, but I want to start getting some traffic cameras ready here. We have just a slew of stuff up in the computer, so bear with me here to try to jump on over to those. But you know, there's Florida 511 perspectives here. So important as we watch here. You know, the visuals of this devastating, catastrophic hurricane it comes on in and it causes, as many problems as you could ever imagine. As we look here, let's look at some cameras in Perry because, those aren't probably going to make it, through. And they really kind of did during the Dahlia, but, it's a situation where a lot of the structures aren't going to make it through. We looked at some of the stuff during Debbie, and as bad as it was still something you could rebuild from. I mean, you can rebuild, but it's gonna be a mess. It's gonna be an absolute mess here. As we're trying to get one of these loaded on, and it's not the easiest shot, and the winds haven't picked up to just the extremely dramatic level yet. But as we go ahead and look, this is at Byron Butler Parkway. You see there the roads are slick, but the wind hadn't gotten extreme. It's going to get extreme very quickly. The storm moving in very quickly. Surge, of course, at the coast moving in very quickly. This is US 19/98 at Main Street. As we watch this scenario, it's going to get a lot worse. Coast areas are getting it more, but at this moment, you just can't really tell, because we don't have cameras. There's not cameras down there. Florida 511 doesn't have them necessarily closer down, but I know there's been a confirmed water spout around Richmond Hill, north of our area. Of course, we have flash flood warning, but the extreme wind warning is the focal point here. Let's go back to the EWW is what it's called. Again, the extreme winds coming on in here. I mean, this is just awful, absolutely awful. Let's remind people where this is at in perspective. So there's the covered area. As we look at things here, as we watch, and then we're talking about here an area there of Dixie, Jefferson, Lafayette, Leon, Madison, Taylor, and McCullough until midnight under the risk here. Again, not right in Tallahassee proper. Still gonna be bad, but not as bad as, right there in the extreme wind warning where things are just gonna be torn apart, all over the place. And of course the surge coming in causes big problems here. It causes big problems. Again, continue to track this scenario as it's ongoing here. Let me go ahead and go back on over to another mode. Bear with me. Again, the extreme wind warning in play. Tornado-like winds are headed your way in that pinkish area. Let me take the radar off for a moment to kind of indicate that for you. That's where that is. That's the area of grave danger here from the wind. Of course, the surge is coming up along the coast. As we talked about Cedar Key, it's going up very rapidly now. There's Cedar Key right there, of course. And, that wind, causing things to go up in terms of that surge very rapidly and, causing just absolute, a catastrophic consequence as we look ahead in the word timeline. When you talk about hurricanes and history in America, and myself, I talk about Andrew, I talk about Michael, you talk about Katrina. Well, this one's going to be another one we talk about forever. Of course, our system here, Helene. So, again, here we go. This is it. It's coming on in. I mean, the one thing I will say with this, and we don't want it to hit Tallahassee. We don't want it to hit anybody. And hitting Tallahassee would have caused, with the core, Iowa, and it still might to some degree at east side of Leon and the like. That would have caused, a good bit more damage, but it would have also got more national attention about this situation, and gotten people maybe more help. I know it's bad having to say it like that, but that's kind of the storyline. I can already see it now that, I mean, it kind of happened to Michael, but folks are going to get left behind. But it's good news that the state capital is not, maybe going to get it as bad, still bad. It's still maybe one of the worst storms they've had there. I mean, it's probably at this point on this type of track, looking at this here, let me look at our velocity. It's a situation where, let me look at these winds in here. Probably rivaling Kate in 85, which is still something where, school was out for a week. I mean, so it's not going to be something, that has no consequences. It's just, maybe it's not going to, really, deliver Tallahassee that crescent blow. I mean, I graduated from FSU. I certainly don't want Tallahassee to get hit here as we're looking at things. I don't want anybody to get hit. And sadly, it's going to be that area here, just east of Tallahassee with the gravest consequences, it would seem, at this point in time. So, again, just continuing to watch this here very carefully, trying to give you guys the very latest. I see some questions here. What kind of winds we be expecting in Bradford County here as we're looking at the situation? We're seeing gusts right now 30 to 40. With this track here, you can't rule out, and the winds will spread a little bit as this gets over land. It's not going to unwind much, but seeing gusts to 75, and that would cause quite a few more power outages. Though I've noticed recently, we're not seeing the maximums quite as much here. And if we had it right at the coast, coming off the water played a role in that. And the wind field forecast was kind of demonstrating, maybe I've got to 70, in some of these areas we may just not have the weather stations, but I'm not sure if we're quite getting the winds maybe as far east on this to as strong as we thought, as it was looking like a little earlier. It's hard to say, but we'll say gusts 75 and hope for the best here in Bradford County with this. That would mean scattered to widespread power outages, and we'll just kind of continue to watch. And pressure is down to 994 millibars. I think that's the lowest I've had on here as I look. I mean, really telling the story. I mean, it's definitely the lowest we've had all, actually, okay, it looks, was that today? Okay, that was today, 993.6. So, yeah, we've had the lowest we've had all year, and probably since I've had that last several years. But, I mean, it's the strongest weather, per se, in the region. Of course, really, in comparison to storms like Adalia, I believe. I'll have to double check. But that's, serious pressure, low pressure here in Bradford County. But it's a lot lower out toward the west. I mean, the storm has, pressure in the 940s as the last check. So that's just a deepening here in the meteorology and the like. Now, I will say one thing about the rain. It's not going to be near as consequential in Bradford County as Debbie was. So that's one good thing that we're confident on. Even though we've had all the rain before, we're not going to have the rain like Debbie, caused in Bradford County. This is a quick moving system, and the forecast have only showed, limited amounts really expected, an inch or two, somewhere around that for Bradford County. So, all storms are different. As I go ahead and go back on over toward the graphics here, through 8 p.m. on that Friday here, we're talking about a situation where you can see, I mean, in that light blue, dark blue, that's an inch, or even less in some cases, maybe half inch to 3/4 of an inch. So, it's really a give and take here, obviously, as we're looking at things, as we're tracking the scenario. And let's go ahead and keep watching. You can see out toward Perry. It's coming on in over the next little bit. Hunker down in Perry. It's so important that you do that here in this set of circumstances. So in the hurricane, getting closer and closer. These winds is so extraordinary. Maybe you could almost start to see some of that northern eyewall starting to, encroach upon the coast there. as we're looking at things, as we're tracking them, as we really monitor the ongoing scenario. So again, these are extraordinary winds coming on in. Let's check, let me check that gauge there again around Cedar Key. See if we have any update from that. Let me go ahead and step out of the shot here and give you another update on that. As we continue along. I'm going to refresh here. Behind the scenes. I know we got values, you know, way high at Clearwater Beach for them comparatively. The Cedar Key is looking like now over 5 feet as the last observation, and it's still shooting straight up there. 5.29 feet now, the present water level. So, you know, we had about 7 feet during the Dahlia, and we're headed toward that and probably going to surpass that here pretty quick. So that's kind of the storyline towards Cedar Key as we're looking at the situation. You know, as we're monitoring it. Seeing some tropical storm force gusts all there through Gainesville, Chiefland. I mean, they're not overwhelming right now, though, which is good. But it's an overwhelming situation out toward the west here with Helene. You know, something that is as consequential as it's ever going to happen in the meteorology world in Florida. Again, continuing to give you the latest here. Just checking all the different resources here to protect you, protect your friends, protect your family. I know that pressure down to about 993.5 now here east of Stark. And we continue to watch the hurricane. You know, continue to watch it. What an absolute monster Helene is. This hurricane. An absolutely awful situation. Looks like we're getting, you know, some preliminary reports. I don't have it from, you know, right off maybe, but it looks like we might have the first fatality from the hurricane downstate around Tampa. Still working to confirm the details on that, but again, things are going to be a lot worse even as we get further up here. As we look further on up. Again, a serious situation. Again, continuing to give you the latest here to protect you, your friends, your family. Let me go ahead and kind of look at some more here. Again, Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. Winds catastrophic here. We're talking about those, you know, sustained winds at 140 miles an hour now. As we're looking at things, you know, with higher gust coming on in toward the picture. So just absolutely terrible here with Helene, with the consequences that we're going to see, you know, as we're looking ahead here. Things just get worse and worse. You know, Perry, Mayo, Horseshoe Beach. We're talking about Monticello, Madison. Those areas hit so hard last year in the day as well. And here we go again. Something quite a bit worse. I mean, yikes. I mean, it's just, you know, as heartbreaking as you can ever think. I mean, have something like this. Have something like this. I mean, here you go. As we go ahead and continue to track it. Continue to give you the very, very latest. So again, we're at 9:43 right now. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center. We have an extreme hurricane situation as we're looking toward the Gulf Coast. Category 4 with extreme winds coming in, and the storms are moving very fast. That's going to impact a lot of folks going further up, as we track it. In fact, I haven't shown you guys another view of this in a while. So let me get that ready. As we kind of look, I mean, it's moving so quick. We try to get our track on here. See where it's headed. Bear with me. Again, a very serious situation with Helene. We've said that 100 times by now, but this bears repeating how bad things are getting and going to get. I mean, that storm surge going up rapidly in Cedar Key and Levy County. I mean, after everything they've been through now, even something worse. As we go ahead and look here at things in the Weather Center. Let me go ahead and jump on over on camera so you can see what was it, 3 earlier, it's a 4 now. Gonna probably be a 2 here in Georgia, Cat 2 hurricane, as we're looking probably somewhere in the vicinity of Tifton, give or take, as we look ahead and then going further up in Georgia. And you see maybe even, according to this here, maybe even a tropical storm in Tennessee now. As we're looking at this, I haven't had a chance to double check another graphic on that to see if it has an extra tropical by then, but it has tropical force winds on there. Let me check the wind radius. It doesn't have, well, it does have the radius on there by then. So, again, but it was, that's the first time I think I've seen in Tennessee on that. It's still maybe a tropical system. Again, such a unique situation, such a unique setup here with immense consequences anticipated. So, again, we're tracking this here in the Weather Center. What I think I'm going to do, because I don't think we're going to get, many breaks here as we get to about 10 o'clock past. We don't have any active tornado warnings, but we have a tornado situation pretty much with 50 miles, worth of tornado-like winds coming in with the eye wall. Those are going to be coming in here, very soon. So hunker down and just, be in shelter right now as we're looking at things. Be in shelter as we're looking at the situation here. You see that dark blue indicating some extreme winds. Still bad winds over here as well, but not quite as high. Going, in eastern McCullough, eastern Leon, it would seem. This is looking like a velocity right now, winds to about 110 miles an hour. And that'd be, in this part maybe of the extreme wind warning clip in Tallahassee, still pretty bad. But in here we have winds to 140, sustained, it would seem, going up into this part of the warning. And then you have the eye kind of in the middle, give or take. So what I'm going to do, we're going to come back at 9:55. I just don't feel comfortable with a situation this bad, leaving you for very long here. But you need to catch my breath, because once this gets over land areas, it's going to be about trees falling left and right here. And I want to make sure I'm with you guys. It's going to be so important, even maybe to put a mattress over your head to protect yourself from flying debris in a situation with winds about a 50-mile area, tornado-like winds coming on in. So we'll be back at 9:55 with more, and probably going to pretty much be on wall to wall through the landfall at that point here for a while. So, keep it tuned. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. I know on YouTube you can kind of back things up too if you missed something that I said. Want to watch that part again. But we'll be back soon as I watch this devastating, this catastrophic storm. I know I gotta, change some things with the radar here real quick as this kind of comes on into the picture. That eye wall coming on in. The devastating, the catastrophic consequences. The water rises in Cedar Key, no doubt. It's just a horrific storm. And I'm gonna be back here at 9:55 with more to ride you through that landfall and be with you here for a while to protect you, your friends, and your family some more on a situation where it's really, we've talked about it so much ahead of time. Don't know if we're ready to talk, so much about a storm ahead of time, but we knew it was gonna be so bad, and we talked about a lot in our tornado covered, and we tried to prepare you, and now it's coming on in. And I just hope folks evacuated here and heeded the orders in the areas where they needed to because it's just going to be ruins in some areas here as we look ahead. So back here soon with more information on historic major hurricane Helene.
This is a clouds weather alert.
Meteorologist Casey Cloud back here in the Weather Center tracking historic Hurricane Helene as it gets closer to landfall. Starting to see a little bit of eye wall coming on shore now. We have that extreme wind warning in effect. I mean, that's just as bad as it gets here in the meteorology world. This is a little earlier, that's about 8:15, and this is now. And we're starting to get that eye wall here to come on shore a little bit. The landfall is going to be a little bit longer before that happens, but we're getting this extreme winds there right around the Deco Beach area over towards Hatchie now. And we're going to start getting this into more and more zones. Perry here later on. It's going to take a little bit because they're a little ways away from the water. But, you know, we have that surge. We've been talking about it coming into Cedar Key. Well, now you can kind of just tell by the way the storm is. It's now, I'm sure, coming up. We don't have the sensors, but it's now coming up toward like Horseshoe Beach here and the like. An area that was devastated last year, probably going to be in even worse shape after this storm, but probably a lot worse shape as we continue to reiterate here over today, over a while. We're now getting word of a new extreme wind warning coming out until midnight for Hamilton and Suwannee. It'll take a little bit probably to load, but they're kind of probably trying to fill that gap in here. You can kind of see it between offices. That's probably, and we'll see it when it comes out. But Lauraville, you know, up to Jennings. I mean, Dowling Park again. Yeah, I mean, we've shown this to you plenty of times before, and here you go again for Dowling Park. I mean, it's a repeat but worse, which, I mean, I can't imagine this anywhere in the country being like this, much less being in our own viewing area to be something worse than what happened then. But let's go ahead and kind of show you what happened last year. Let's go ahead and show you here what happened around Dowling Park. It's going to take me a moment here because it's in our system. I gotta pull it up, but it's worth finding here for you guys, the viewers at home, as the situation here, you know, moves on in toward that area, moves on in toward that community. I mean, you know, they were hit so hard last year from Adalia, but this is gonna be even worse here. Gonna be even worse in this type of situation. So, okay, here we go. The Dowling Park section of the damage from last year. And again, think maybe a little worse. Now, this is going to probably be just slightly west of last year, so maybe kind of similar, possibly for Dowling Park. It's possible, but you're under an extreme wind warning now, no doubt. I'm sure they included that part of the county under it. But here's last year, 1 week after Adalia. You can see the power line down there. You can see just all, you know, the devastation there. Now this year, what's coming in, you know, another extreme wind warning. A year later, it's deja vu, really, but worse here across our area. I mean, what an awful situation. Everybody's been working so hard. I mean, at least if you had one come in a week or two after, you know. Now we don't want that this year, you know, not, you know, saying that because there is something we have to watch in a week or two, but at least if you'd have had this one come in a week or two after last year, you wouldn't have spent all the money and the resources to get things repaired. Now, instead of do all that, you think you're finally back on your feet, and then it all falls apart again a year later, a year and a month later. I mean, wow. Anyway, here we go. This is the last year. Now it's going to happen again after everybody spent all that time, all that money, all that effort to get things back. It's another year or more to recover toward these areas. Maybe some of these areas at this point won't ever, sadly, recover because of this devastating storm coming in. So I'm going to get that extreme wind warning up, and it's going to pop up here too. But I want to do the geography thing I did earlier where I kind of give you another look at it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. As the situation transpired, I'm going to go ahead and switch some things up. So bear with me here in the Weather Center. I know we're trying to do a whole bunch of stuff at once. It's been busy already, very busy with the tornado warnings, you know, but then this is a lot worse. A lot worse than tornado warnings. It's really something else when you think about it. Let me go ahead and check here. Okay, so I wanted to pull up the other extreme wind warning. All the way gust to 60 at Jacksonville Airport now. Going in line with our forecast thinking, really. As we go ahead and check here. I'm going to check the NWS Jacksonville there on Twitter/X. And the last year was barely a major hurricane, even though it was just horrible. And this year is not just barely a major hurricane. So again, continuing to go over some stuff here. 140, still with the wind. Gust to 78 recently in Cedar Key. 5.76 feet in the storm surge there in Cedar Key so far. Gotta remember, when the eye comes ashore, not to venture out in relative calm, as the hazardous winds will increase very quickly when the eye passes. So that's something that's really important to keep in mind. Let me go ahead and pull some more things up here. I'm going to have it, we can kind of toggle between these, because these are, maps of areas that are going to be devastated and destroyed, in a lot of ways. I mean, I want to say to some degree to be optimistic, but we're not in the stage to be optimistic here at this point when you're under an extreme wind warning. Again, let's go ahead. Let me get the one up here to the east, and we'll put it up on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this full one here. There's your extreme wind warning. And that's in play there for about 10,000 people until midnight. Lauraville there, Dallin Park, Ellaville, up to Jennings there. We're talking about just extremely dangerous hurricane winds. Extremely, extremely dangerous scenario. It's just going to be heartbreaking, toward these communities. This is like a tornadic situation, but worse, really. I mean, as we continue to reiterate, it's a tornado over a wide area, 50 plus miles wide, coming on in with the winds, that are going to be strong tornado-like. So, I mean, we talk about the 145-mile-an-hour winds of the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. As we continue to watch things here very carefully, I'll go ahead and pull that back up. And just reiterate that, a catastrophic scenario wind, catastrophic scenario storm surge. Again, really, really awful. As we go ahead and go one over right now, I'm going to go on over again toward other source with me in front of it now. So you can see part of I-10 under this in that part of the region, the Jacksonville jurisdiction. Of course, Tallahassee has, part of the interstate under it as well. Even part of 75, I-75 under this as well. This is where you're going to have tornado-like winds. I mean, it's deja vu, really, and towards some of these communities with the winds that are going to be just horrific, absolutely horrific here. The eye wall coming on through this morning till midnight as we're looking there. Let me go ahead and pull up another source now. I hear the wind howling outside here east of Stark. I mean, up to 25 on the gauge, but doesn't sound like a lot. But as you get higher up, I mean, that would actually measure higher. Our gauge is just at 6 feet, but I mean, winds far higher expected out toward the west here, out toward the west. Gusts in theory could be 150 miles an hour when you have a storm with sustained 140. Technically, they can be even higher than that, but you generally don't have that much more of an uptick, and probably wouldn't get those measurements because it's such a area where there's not as many gauges. We've seen this with several other storms, weaker storms by a long shot, other than Adalia that was weaker by still a pretty big ways, but it was very formidable and impactful and life changing for sure. As we go ahead and pull up here, the other extreme wind warning to midnight. You see Horseshoe Beach under this. You see Steenhatchee. You see areas there, Deckley Beach, over toward Cooks Hammock, Mayo, Day, Pineland, Perry, Madison, Hanson, Greenville, Shermans, Asheville, Monticello, Wassissa, Capola there, and Newport. Again, what a bad situation. And as we're looking at things, just awful, just absolutely awful here. Let me go ahead, jump back on over toward the Doppler. Really starting to get some of that eye wall coming on shore now in Taylor County. We talked about it here. You know, really thinking it was probably going to be a Taylor County landfall, and that's probably what we're going to have here. You know, which, I mean, you know, is awful here and awful, you know, even in Western Swan and Hamilton, you know, and Dixie, it's worse. Lafayette, it's worse. It's going to be a little bit better in Tallahassee and Leon. Still bad. Still probably going to have widespread outages, I would say, you know, but maybe not. Just, you know, buildings destroyed all over the place. So, again, that's kind of a storyline right now. You know, we're going to have buildings destroyed all over the place within this pink box here. I mean, that does include East Tallahassee, really. As you're getting out of Tallahassee, going back, I mean, been on that stretch of the road quite a bit here, going from Stark to FSU, and here we go again for that area, but even worse this time. Again, it's like a nightmare. I mean, an absolute nightmare here toward these areas. And you just see the other polygon in here now, added from the Jacksonville office. It's a small sliver. We already kind of broke it down, but Lauraville, New Bern, you have a Dallin Park in there as well. And areas further up in Hamilton County like Jennings. Jasper's not under this here, but still going to be very strong power outages causing winds coming on through as we look. And real quick, we do want to move, you know, we do have folks watching from like Stark and Gainesville. I don't want to leave you out, but we're seeing winds about 40 or so. Still going to cause isolated to scattered, but so far, and you know, we probably will start seeing a little bit more of this spread as it comes on in. But you know, assuming it doesn't wobble too much, we may be in a spot here where, just based on the numbers I'm seeing so far, you know, we may get luckier here, you know, as we're looking further over toward the east. We already talked about, you know, east of Bradford, it'd be more fringe effects. We thought, based on how the forecast was at 5 o'clock, the wind gust could get to hurricane force to 75, really, in Stark and Gainesville, a little bit more likely. But right now we're seeing the gust in the 40 range, and we're happy that it's not getting higher. But you see, I mean, look how close Perry is to the worst of this, and they're only seeing a gust of 51 so far, but the storm has 140 mile an hour sustained winds. I mean, you know, so they did have, you know, winds to hurricane in Cedar Key, and there's just not a lot of sensors out here, and, you know, the lack of data. I mean, we already had the storm last year. And let's go to the Tallahassee radar again. I keep switching around to get you the best vantage point on this, but again, it's going to get worse and worse in Perry. We do have a camera there, Florida 5-1 perspective, so we'll go over that here in a moment. You can see here Cedar Key. I mean, that wind direction's been, you know, that pattern just been pushing that surge on in. I'll zoom back in here. You know, that wind is just flowing that right on in there. Horseshoe Beach here. You're getting that surge to come right on in. Swanee coming right on in. Steenhatchee is probably starting to really come right on in on you, including the eye wall. Right there in Steenhatchee. It's just, you know, it's going to be something that is just horrific as we're looking there. And it's nighttime, too. For the Dahlia, at least it was during the day, you know, as things were peeking on out. So at least you kind of had an idea. But it's going to be harder to figure things out with a storm. But just at night, I mean, you got to wait all the way to the morning. And then if you're not there, there's going to be power lines, power poles down all over the place, trees down, and the like. So again, it's not a good situation here at all. Not a good scenario at all here as we're looking toward Perry, toward Taylor County, and toward surrounding zones here. I know this eye. Let's see. Sometimes you have birds that get trapped in our eye because it's so formidable, and we'll kind of see maybe a tad bit of that. You know, not maybe a whole bunch, but we've seen it. I want to say a Michael maybe. It was even a little bit more organized, not by much, but a little bit as we were looking back there, 2018. But it's close. It's very close to what Michael was. Closer to Michael's strength than Adalia's strength here is Helene. I mean, you must get confused on what storm you're talking about here because we just covered Adalia in this same area pretty much 13 months ago with the extreme wind warnings, but this one's worse. This one is worse, folks. You know. And let's go ahead and go to the power outage maps. I thought I heard one of our systems click here, maybe a little bit of a flicker. So let's go ahead and kind of reminded me here to go over to that. We haven't lost power for any in a long period of time. with the storm here since Irma. You know, not more than this flicker since Irma. Could happen tonight if we get this gets to 75 though. It's a situation we're going to continue to monitor, obviously, as the situation does evolve on us here. It does advance. We have backup systems in play to make sure we get back on the air here in pretty short order. But I mean, you'll, assuming I'm talking when it happens, you'll see kind of, you know, me being on a little after, but probably getting in the dark here, don't extend, and then going on from that point. But again, continuing to watch things here. There's a Parada.us map. You can see here as we're looking at things. Let's look at Alachua County. Almost 17,000 in the dark now there. Marion County 18,000. Union County a little over 1,000. Bradford at 67. Columbia about 5,000. Suwannee County a little over 2,000. Lafayette County a little over 1,500. Gilchrist there almost 5,000. Dixie over 5,000. Levy about 15,000 now in the dark. As we're watching, you see Taylor County is going to get a lot worse there, you know, with the wind and outages. Lafayette, you see Wakulla, you see Leon. I mean, I'm sorry, and probably if I look at another map, probably a little higher by now in Leon, but about 7,000 customers in the dark there. So, again, you know, a really serious situation, but, you know, even, you know, something that's going to get a lot worse on this map here soon. As you know, you see the high number, the percentages are not as high, you know, some of it is down west central Florida, southwest, but there's still a lot of folks that live there, and even a smaller percentage means a lot of folks in the dark. So, again, that's kind of a situation there as we're looking at things, as we're tracking them here, you know, as we're monitoring the ongoing scenarios. So, again, let's go to the tornado safety tips now, because pretty much that extreme wind warning, you know, it means that you're going to have a situation there as we're looking where, I mean, you're going to have tornado-like winds coming on in, so you need to make sure you're in a sturdy building, obviously. You got to be away from the water, from that surge. Get as many walls between you and the outside as possible, and then protect yourself from flying debris by putting on a bicycle helmet, football helmet, baseball helmet, something like that, and then have your shoes on. So that applies, you know, to the extreme wind warning areas that you might have got on your phone, something like that. It's a tornado-like situation, but really worse. Worse, I mean, because this is over a wider area, and these are guaranteed strong, which you don't even get very often. Guaranteed strong, you have 2+ tornado winds. So, I mean, that tells a weather story right there about how the danger, you know, is involved in these communities, how serious this is. You know, it's just not what you want to see. Not what you want to see at all. Again, continuing to give you the latest. Let me go ahead and check on over here to another mode as we continue our coverage. Hear that rumbling outside where we're at, but it's dark, so we can't really say much at this point in time. Gust on the anemometer, 16 out of the southeast. It looks like 24 now at about, you know, 6 feet. So extrapolate that upward, and that, you know, gets you about tropical storm force or so. But again, continuing to watch here. And once you get about 60, that's when you really have the power outages starting to mount. Okay, we just got word of something in Dixie County now. Mobile weather stem site in the community of Gina. 83-mile-an-hour gust there. So that's being reported on a mobile weather stem site, a gust of 83 miles an hour in Dixie County. Hurricane wind gust there, causing the power to go out pretty quickly, I'm sure. As we're looking at things, and you know, these small towns, and maybe Jenna around here, to be quite honest, you know, it seems like every time we have a storm over here, we, you know, kind of go over some areas that we've talked about a lot, other areas we haven't really talked about, and the pronunciations can be tricky here, even in a part of our area. But these are important, you know, areas here tonight because of the impact that's coming on through. So again, continuing to track it all. Let me go back on over toward, we'll get the camera back up. Let me get back our other system here. So again, you see extreme wind warning. You know, the one is the other, but 83-mile-an-hour gust in Dixie County. I know we're looking there. You see Dixie County. See some of that eye wall coming in there. So not a good scenario. The centered eyes out here, that's when you have landfall, all that, when you have the lowest pressure. But again, a situation where it's continuing to watch here. A horrific scenario, obviously, as we continue to reiterate that eye wall on the coast, though. Steinhatchee, you're getting in the winds, I'm sure, you know, well over 100 miles an hour, probably gust to about 150. I mean, look at this here. Let me take off our alert for a moment. Maybe I'll put it under. It's not going to help us much under, but right here at the beach. I mean, these are some of the strongest winds that a hurricane has to offer, from Deckle Beach to Salem. Talking about winds 140, 150 miles an hour, potentially here in the gust in this area right now. As we're looking and tracking off toward the west here, we're talking about 120 miles an hour. And as we're moving up into eastern McCullough, eastern Leon County, and then into Jefferson County, it's probably, you know, in Taylor County where the eye is going to be going here. The center of the eye is probably going to be into Taylor a little with this. So again, just continuing to see exactly what we're dealing with here, what the scenario is. As I'm looking, still gonna have a lot of power outages in Tallahassee. There's no doubt about that. So just kind of keep that in mind here. Make sure you're charging your devices up if you stayed put there. It's not going to be quite as catastrophic for Tallahassee proper because of that movement here and the extreme wind warning just east of town, with, you know, or downtown at least. But again, I just continuing to track all this here for you with our hurricane. Again, let me go ahead and jump on over here toward another mode, and you can kind of see here what we're talking about with all this. I mean, it's not going to be bad in Tallahassee. It's just, it's going to be worse. They're not going to probably get any eye in Tallahassee, and the western eye wall is going to be, you know, right on the edge of them. If it wobbles just enough, it's going to make things quite a bit worse still. Still could be, you know, the worst storm they've had since '85 and Kate. I mean, it's potentially worse than Helene, which was really a big deal in Tallahassee. And then also worse, you know, than what they had from Michael, you know, the further eastern friends back in 2018. Perry just had a gust of 63, so let's go ahead and try to get the camera up in that area as the situation progresses here. Try to kind of get you a camera view of what's going on there as things, you know, deteriorate even further here toward part of our area. That Florida 511 camera is so instrumental in trying to figure out exactly what's going on here, exactly what's happening in this set of circumstances. So let's try to get on in here. I know we have one. I want to go to the other one if I can that looks available, because that one kind of, okay, this is a better view. Hampton Springs Avenue in Perry, you have 19/98 there at Hampton Springs Avenue. Let's go ahead and say the camera's shot now and the wind's picking it up. I mean, we'll probably lose these at some point, but let's look at this live perspective here, this Florida 511 view. As we are looking here, conditions getting worse and worse in this area. Might see power flashes like what we saw during Debbie there back last month. So something to keep an eye on. I'll step out of the shot real quick here so you can get even a better view of this as we continue here with the coverage, trying to keep you, your friends, your family safe and informed. You know, trying to keep everybody up to date on what's happening here in this environment. You know, with this setup with Helene. Might have been a power flash right there, live on the air. I think it was. And I was just telling a story about more and more folks losing electricity there. This is Perry in Taylor County, a live look on the traffic cameras. Those are probably not lightning strikes, so I'll double check here because we have had some in this, but there is some lightning in the area, so it's not out of the question, but it would seemingly be more likely to be power flashes. And that means more and more folks are losing electricity here as we're looking at this camera shot. Obviously, don't want to see anybody out and about. We had a few folks out in Adalia. Debbie, I'm hoping we really don't see anybody out in this storm because this is, such a high level of impact here as we're looking toward the coast. So again, it's a nightmare, an absolute nightmare toward these communities here as we look tonight. Taylor County. I mean, it's just gonna, be a situation here that, it gets worse and worse here. And probably end up losing the camera at some point as we're looking at things, as we're tracking them. I know, referencing where this is in the area, Taylor County in the eastern Big Bend. And they're going to get, some of the worst that this hurricane has to offer. I mean, some of the stuff you just saw in that shot probably not going to even be there, within a couple of hours. I mean, that kind of tells a story. By the way, gust to 63 in Flagler County on the East Coast. Some of that overall pattern kind of causing that. As we continue to give you the very latest. Continue to give you the latest updates. Still getting high gusts around Tampa. Looks like 64 miles an hour recently. .84 miles an hour, Horseshoe Beach now. Last few moments on a weather stem site. Hurricane force winds there. Again, telling that weather story. That the camera shot we go now as we're looking here at this Florida 5-1 perspective in Hurricane Helene. Again, you see the big consequences here. As when you think about it, these winds picking up now, but gonna have a lot more damage here coming up as we look ahead into toward the timeline, into toward the minutes, an hour or two to come. Power blast there, I'm pretty sure. That was live from a hurricane. Looks like it's affecting maybe even some stuff in the shop. But again, Hurricane Helene power blast. And it's just, it's just the beginning of what is going to get worse. Deteriorate even worse here toward this community. I wish we had shots around Horseshoe Beach and the like. We don't. But those areas are already getting it even worse, obviously, as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things and giving you guys the very latest. So let's go ahead and go back on down now toward another view on this. Let me go ahead and kind of see what we have here. There's the radar perspective as we continue to watch the hurricane. Let me just check some things here for a moment. It's a historic major hurricane getting closer and closer to landfall. Hope everybody's staying safe across the area here as we continue to watch Helene. Continue to give you the latest. That Iowa has very quickly progressed. I mean, we told you how quick this would move. It may be moving, slightly slower than I thought it would, but not by much. You can see that eyewall starting to get into Perry proper now. We'll go back to the traffic camera sites there in a moment because we're going to be getting to that eyewall here very soon with this storm moving about 25-ish miles an hour here off toward the northeast. So again, just continuing to track all this here in toward the weather center. This is the eyewall. This is where some of the worst of the weather is, and it's impacting areas here along the Taylor County coast, especially. Here you see areas like Salem, Pineland, Perry involved. Just as we're continuing to watch things here, Tennelle there as well, as the storm system comes on in. You do see it. We haven't talked about you guys much, but you are getting a little bit of some very nasty conditions around McCullough Beach and St. Mark's. That's what I'm talking about. Now, I wonder here, granted the winds are terrible, causing quite a bit of damage, but I think that maybe you're kind of on the back side. So I know So the way this is wrapping around here, the wind direction, Franklin County, they've had a lot of flash flood warnings. They've had, a situation here where they've had a good bit of wind, but they're getting lucky in Franklin County, it would seem to me, from what they could have had with the surge coming on in. I mean, we kind of saw some things with all the rain, thinking maybe that's where kind of, it would be harder for the storm to go with that pattern. And sure enough, it's gone a little east of some of that back out there and gone over here. So that's, Franklin County last night. The landfall is supposed to be in that zone. So really, this was projected to be kind of down in here, give or take, and coming up this way. And you would have had all that surge, it's going to be horrible here and, rebuilding again. It's all bad, for so many folks, no matter where it hits, it's hidden an area that they already got hit. But it's a situation where there are folks that fare a lot better, and gust about 60 in Franklin, but the wind's pushing this way, so the water's coming out, so they're not getting the surge, those numbers like we were projecting. Over here, it's the opposite. The wind is just, it's the surge is just coming up, and causing devastation. As we're looking off toward the east here, with this. So, I mean, that includes all these areas down in here, Cedar Key. I mean, Inglis and those areas down there too, but Horseshoe Beach, Steinhatchee, Deckle Beach. That surge, the wind direction. I have it on our other map, and I'll go ahead and plot it there in case you guys might want a better look at that, because it is very important to show you guys. And it's a little behind. It shows the area to the west really good. It doesn't show the eastern areas as good because the storm's moving so quick, but it's important to show this to you. So again, the wind is going out here. I mean, so that means you're not getting a surge over there in Franklin County. You're getting the opposite. The water's going out. I mean, with all the flooding you've had, it's still flash flooding, still bad, but not 15 feet of storm surge. And some of that might, I wouldn't be surprised if it's helping some of that water, that flooding, go down some even. But over here, again, it's the opposite. And these areas you kind of have to, because this runs a little back, because it's storming so quick, the surge, I mean, it's been coming up in Cedar Key, and it's coming up here to coast, and I bet it's probably come up more in Dixie than, so is Horseshoe Beach, and the way they're out there is probably, I mean, it is coming out, they're pretty good, but it may be even, a little bit, more extreme now, the angle on that. So, again, get Augusta 60 Apalachicola, got Augustus now 67 Jacksonville Beach, because the overall pattern, the wind's kind of coming off the water. We saw this in Irma. It was a worse, level wind in Irma coming off the water. We had hurricane gusts, all over the place up here. But, along this coast here, we're getting probably some power outages because of these higher winds. It's a little bit of a tricky situation when you think about it. We've seen another storm before because there's just no friction here to stop that wind from coming on in. So, again, I just continue to watch, and I'm probably pointing the wrong direction, but it's kind of more like this than what I'm pointing. But you kind of get the idea with this. But again, in some area, it's just another hurricane or just another storm. But for the area with the extreme wind warning, in and around that and further up into Georgia, it's going to be the storm of their lives. We can't lose sight of that here. This is going to be the worst storm of their entire life, probably, for that corridor there. I mean, Perry thought a day it was a storm of record. It's now Helene. It's going to be the storm of record now. Horseshoe Beach there. It's the storm of record for you guys, more than likely, once we get the storm surge numbers figured out. I mean, all that hard work, I mean, it's just been thrown, down the drain, for lack of better words. That work, in some cases now, it's getting out in the Gulf of Mexico pretty much, as we're looking there. As we go ahead and look here at that eye, let's go ahead and go back on over here toward the other view. You can start to see here, the center of the eye. I mean, let me measure this. It's going to run a little behind another system, but I want to see how close it is to the coast. I mean, we're 20 miles. 20 miles, so that's probably about hour or maybe 45 minutes from the pistol landfall. They may do it in the advisory at 11 if they wait long enough. We'll see. It'll be close if it kind of picks up a little more forward speed here with the official landfall. But the worst is already coming in these areas, and we need to go back to the traffic camera since this is coming in so quickly in Perry. I bet it's really picking up there. So let me go ahead and get that loaded back on in for the viewers at home as we continue to track things, continue to watch. I'm going to go ahead and try to get that loaded on up here for everybody. Let me go ahead and step out of the shot here. And it's all about protecting you, your friends, and your family. Let me go ahead and see here what I can get loaded up with the traffic cameras. You know, so important here as we're tracking the scenario, as we're monitoring things. Bear with me. As I continue to give you the latest. Again, just looking at some things behind the scenes. Had a little bit of a streaming issue there, trying to get to one of our Facebook pages earlier, so I kind of had to share things a little different at first. Just wanted to make sure we had a tornado warning. So I had to get on the air pretty quickly. Just go ahead and start the, extended cover to the landfall. So I wanted to make sure that was on there. So it's on there twice. Went a little later, but that's all right. As we go ahead and again look at a situation that is not all right. It's not okay. To ward these areas with that extreme wind warning. It's just an awful set of circumstances. I know toward Perry, well, things have really taken that escalation now, as you would expect. Let me go ahead and again, it's a Cat 4 hurricane, and you'd expect an escalation. I mean, look at that background. That's what Cat 5 winds did with Tyndall Air Force Base and Hurricane Michael, snapping those trees. And we're having trouble with the camera. We just had a crazy look at things with the power going out. I need to cut to this right away here. So let me go ahead and come back on camera. We just lost power on this, so the shot's still working, but you had all the lights up a minute ago. They're not up anymore, as you can tell. They're in Perry. Now they are. The cars are going through. Really? Okay, but another car. Maybe they're emergency officials. I'm not sure, but as we're looking there toward US 19/98 at Hampton Spring Avenue, continuing to watch this situation here, this dire scenario. It was interesting to see the lights go out and come back on. I mean, there may be some backup systems in play here to some degree. May see it again now. May see a rerun of what we just had off camera a moment ago with everything getting dark. On that side, it was pretty scary looking. And this is a scary, very scary situation. Again, you need to put that mattress over your head when you're in this eye wall to protect yourself from the flying debris. As we're looking at things here in this set of circumstances. I mean, tornado safety tips come into play in these extreme wind warnings. Go into that real quick to seek shelter inside that sturdy building. Get as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Protect yourself from flying debris by putting a bicycle helmet on, football helmet on, something like that. So just come back to this. So in case we see something really dramatic again on here like we did right when I didn't have it up. You see the wind picking up. There's some flashes, maybe power flash there in the distance. Another one, it looks like there in Perry. More power flashes now here in Taylor County. This situation is escalating right in Perry. There you go again. I mean, gotta think of the damage this is doing here right in Perry. These very high winds, these hurricane winds coming into Perry right now with this Iowa, a very highly populated area. We've been seeing these other areas get it, and this is the highest populated zone really in this corridor, and they're getting the Iowa right now. Matter of life and death. I'm really surprised to see anybody on the road there. We saw a couple of this now, but maybe storm chasers out there or something like that. As it looks like it's calming down. I don't think we're quite into the eye yet, though. It's probably going to pick right back up, and it is picking right back up. You can see that wind almost As you look, you can it almost like some twisting in there maybe, but again, just continue to watch. I expect you probably start seeing these traffic lights just blown down. You would think here it would start blowing them down, breaking them all over the place here as the winds pick up here toward this area with historic Helene. May not even have the shot visible by the time that happens. But as you can see, the wind, it looks like really a big gust now. We'll watch to see if things kind of get blown down here. I mean, that's what happened to Michael. A lot of these were damaged so badly. Such a serious situation here. As we're looking at Perry right now, they're getting a storm, they're getting a hurricane, a nightmarish scenario. It's going to pick up even more as they get closer to the eye itself there. The inner portion of that eye wall, per se, as we're continuing to track all this here. We continue to monitor it all. There's the traffic light behind me. Step over again, and again, just trying to tell that weather story here as we're looking. Taylor County, the impacts from Helene, live on the air as this vigorous storm comes on through now and causes devastation, heartbreak, heartache, trees down everywhere. As we continue to watch there, this is US 19/98 at Hampton Spring Avenue in Perry, in Taylor County. And we're giving you that live view of the conditions here from the Florida 501 perspective. As again, getting very, very, very rough now. You can see things just blowing around here in toward this shot. In terms of the wind, I expect to start seeing more like objects blow around here. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if we see this fall and blow around here over the next little bit as we're looking. It's shaking some. It's shaking there in Taylor County right now. We've already seen all the power flashes, obviously. That was probably about the worst we saw in Debbie, the power flashes, but I expect to see worse, in this, unless we just lose the shots before, it gets to that point. But again, looking live, it's really, shaking and rocking and rolling in a very bad way. I hate to step off like this on the edge, but just it kind of works better. I want to make sure if we kind of catch this live if something happens here with this traffic light. Again, this is Perry, Florida. This is the Eastern Big Bend, and we just got a gust of 66 miles an hour, so we're not quite there yet with these, extraordinary winds. That's still damaging, but it's going to be a lot worse here as we look ahead over the next several minutes as things get worse and worse. And there's a chance some of these areas could be getting higher winds than 66 miles an hour there in toward Perry. So I tell you what, we have one more. Oh, okay, it went dark again. Power flashes all over the place. Live on the air, Perry, Florida. Perry, Florida, telling that story. Giving you the look here at these wicked conditions, these impacts here that are going to be extraordinary toward some of these spots here in the viewing circle. It's something that folks are never going to forget. And as the winds pick up again in Perry, for folks that did stick around, I know a lot of folks, you're evacuating like a lot of folks ordered to. But if you're still there, put that mattress over your head to protect you from flying debris as the power keeps us flickering in and out on this live shot here. US 19/98 there. And it's weird seeing that type of shot there. Just the way the lights are, all jumping around there in toward this shot with Hurricane Helene. Again, seeing things blink here and the like with our Category 4 storm. Okay, so I think I might have maybe a car kind of going through there. Not sure. Let's try. And this keeps giving us weird shots. Let's try the other shot though. Again for a moment. Let me go ahead and jump away from this one. Again, let me see. I'm kind of making notes for us. We're going to go into cover, but there's radar. And you can see that eye wall right through Perry, but it's going to get even worse as you're getting closer to the strongest winds. And, another thing I will say, let's go to velocity on this because it's important to kind of check that out, I think. Let me go ahead and try to pull this up. Yeah, I mean, the worst of the winds are still close to the coast in some ways. I mean, we're seeing, 115 or so aloft, but 65 on the site. But probably something, honestly, some of the sites, I've been reading lower around here, so probably something in between 65 and the 115 that we're seeing as we're looking there. But, some of these worst winds are closer right in here, because the radar is showing 140 on the winds down there. 115 up to the north, so expecting it to pick up quite a bit here, but regardless, we have all that rush of water coming on in, and causing the devastation of the coastal areas for sure. Need to check that Cedar Key sensor again. So let me do that. Okay, we're looking at a hurricane, obviously. Looking at that. And we're looking at velocity, wind velocity, brighter colored indicating some extraordinary winds with the hurricane here. We have the extreme wind warning. Let me pull that back up. We have just so many things we can sell. Let me pull that up again. Where it's just a dire wind situation. I know. Looking at some of our wind numbers here where we're already in Stark. Getting some gust 20, 30 on my central. You see a gust of 56 now in Gainesville. That's pretty impressive. And a lot to a county there now. As these winds really start to have that impact. But let me look Cedar Key sensor because that's really, really important. So we don't have a lot of sensors out here. So that's kind of the one we're relying on because the other one is in Apalachicola, and the way the winds are there, it's just going to all be about Cedar Keys. And okay, we're now getting in Cedar Key. Okay, it looks like 7.5 feet now. 7.5 feet in the latest water level, and still going up there in Levy County, and that is, getting to the point now. And let me go to the graphic. So these weren't exact, but because some folks do it a little different with the way they mark these. Because I was looking at numbers were just very, very slightly different when I was comparing some stuff. But I'll go ahead and just kind of put up because it's important for the perspective. Because in general, it gives you a sense of what we're talking about here. It's going to be a map, or not a map, a graphic here where we compare some of these different water heights at Cedar Key. I know we have the old graphic and then the one at Dahlia. Now we're going to have to put another one. And it's going to, because I think we, depending on how you measure it, I think we're at a new peak now. Bear with me. I had it here last night, I know. I'm just continuing to watch this situation. We move stuff around here in the show, and it's a one-man band, so I have to do this kind of right on the fly. I know, the numbers over 7 feet is extraordinary and in a bad way for Cedar Key. A very bad way, folks. As we continue to watch the situation, okay. Let me pull this in. There's so many things here in our show. So there you go. So Adalia last year was 6.9 feet, and we're getting a reading now of 7.5 feet. Cedar Key, that means it's worse than Adalia. Now I don't think Debbie would have made this list from what from what I've seen. So that's good. The wind's really howling, by the way, here east of Stark now. Really hearing that howl to the wind, but we're now at about 7.5 feet around Cedar Key. And that's very significant. So again, continuing to give you the latest. I wanted to let you know about that water level. And that, we're now past Adalia, it would seem, in parts of Levy County, which is terrible. Just awful. An awful night. Let's go ahead and go over again toward the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. As we continue along here, We do stuff on the fly in these situations. That's how they work. As we kind of go back between some different things here and try to let you know what's going on. Again, catastrophic winds. As we're looking there, as we're looking into different parts of the viewing area. Again, the extreme wind warning, we have the tornado-like winds over a widespread area in pink. And, you know, those winds really getting even worse in Perry. I know it says 65 in the sensor. But, you know, it's a situation where probably, if I go to the camera, probably see even worse conditions. Ooh, the wind's really howling now in Stark. I'll go to the camera in a second. That's probably about the highest wind. Let's see here. It was close. 24, we had 27, but at a certain height. Pressure down to 992. That's pretty impressive. Nothing like, you know, the west, but still, we could get knocked off here. We have backup systems if we need to go on those. We hope we don't get knocked off. These are some pretty impressive winds now. Again, gust to 56 around Gainesville, 51 Lake City, 57 around Jacksonville. Looks like there may be an issue with the Jacksonville radar now. As we look at things, as we continue to monitor. Let's go back up to the Tallahassee view. As we continue to track this hurricane, this very dangerous hurricane, this ongoing situation here, you know, so substantial, so serious. Power outage numbers, let's get a look at those. Okay, over 830,000 now in the dark in the state of Florida. In the state of Florida here, in this scenario. And we'll pull that up behind me now. You can see widespread outages in Taylor, Lafayette, Dixie, Gilchrist, and Levy. I mean, you saw the power flashes in Taylor. And that's, you know, such a serious thing, you know, to see live. But it's much worse in terms of what's coming after that, even with the winds getting even worse and the storm surge. So, again, looking here, Alachua County, 36,000 in dark. Bradford, not so much right now. Clay's about 1,000. I mean, again, you see that red meaning high concentration, widespread outages. Taylor, Lafayette, Dixie, Gilchrist, and Levy. Leon, let's check Leon. I know, you know, the talk is all about Leon, 10,000 or so in the dark right now. And Leon, let's go ahead and kind of go back on over here. Okay, we want to go to, I think, the other source again. Let's go to velocity. I saw something in here that was interesting for Stark. I wanted to, it looked like Jacksonville Raiders having a problem, so I might make it harder. Yeah, this is going to make it real hard. And let's check, is Moody and, are they both down? Okay, they are. I don't know, there must be an issue with the Jacksonville office, but that's kind of interesting. But this was how the winds were aloft, very strong and aloft here in this pattern to the east to the center here. We're hearing them howl around Stark. I can't really say everything since that one radar source is down. Tallahassee's still working though. Here, you know, with the latest it would seem. So, you know, that's starting to run behind too. And I'm looking at the wind gauge here on Stark because I'm really hearing the winds howl. We can't really see a lot since it's dark, but I'm going to do something on this radar. Well, let's go ahead and just do it now because I need to go back to the camera. Let me just see if we can get the radar view a different way. If there's just something, okay, there we go. That's a little bit more up to date. So some type of issue with one of the vendors. I just saw the power kind of flicker. It's flickering again here around Stark. Don't see the gust number, about 4/10 of an inch is all we've had, but the pressure's down to 992 millibars around Stark, which is significant. As you know, really haven't seen that type of number on our anemometer here the last several years in comparison. Okay, I know Perry's getting a lot worse, so let's see if we can get back into the shot before we lose them there around Perry, around Taylor County, with this type of circumstance. I mean, I just really heard the wind howl on Stark, which kind of gets me, you know, concerned about the power outage is probably starting to go up. Even further off toward the east, you know, seeing gusts 75. didn't want to rule it out. We weren't getting some of that in the system earlier, and I'm still having problems with the Taylor County cameras right now, which is not a surprise. Hope we can get those back, but we'll keep an eye on that. They're in the eye wall, of course, you know, some of the worst of the conditions that the storm has to offer. Let me step up again. I want to see if there's any issues in Bradford again, because we have folks in Stark. That's where I'm at, and we're going to use the Tallahassee radar view for a second. Jackson may still not be working no matter what. Yeah, it's not even working the other views, so a couple different issues here, but this is the current view, and you can, you know, see we're kind of on the eastern periphery of some winds that are pretty strong here in this set of circumstances. 22 out of the southeast. By the way, you know, looking at sunset sunrise, almost exactly a 12-hour day of sun versus, you know, dark. It's interesting that we're in that time of year, but you know, it doesn't mean anything for the folks in Perry that are going through this harrowing experience right now. We're so sorry for what's happening there. It's just awful, and in our area, it's still life-threatening in a lot of spots. Just wanted to check to see if we have some issues in Bradford in terms of like trees down and the like, because we're starting to get those type of winds. A little surprised we didn't send more outages on the map, but I know some, you know, like the city of Stark Electric won't be on that. So let me check some things off behind the scenes here. Starting to hear those winds howl at night, which is not something you want to hear, and it's a lot worse to the west, no doubt. Okay, so some folks talking about hearing limbs falling around Bradford County, according to Bradford word of mouth. So let's go ahead and check some more information. Just bear with me. We have some viewers in Stark, and the wind's been picking up, and there's a utility call out now on John's Drive. That's coming on in. So some power outage is being reported. Just don't want to have too much damage because there's quite a few homecoming events to finish out the weekend planned for Saturday around Stark. Hopefully the damage won't be enough to prevent us from having a homecoming parade, but you just never know. Here, you know, kind of lean toward it being cleaned up by then in Bradford, but you never know. Obviously to the west, it's not going to be cleaned up for a long time. I mean, you know, if in some cases, some folks, I hate to say it, they might just, you know, they might just have to give up pretty much because they used all their effort on last year's storm that was so devastating. I know this one's even worse. You hope that doesn't happen, but it's not out of the question. Again, Cat 4 storm getting closer, but not at a landfall yet. Just had a gust of 31 here east of Stark now at 6 feet, so definitely in that, once you know, the calculations higher up at an anemometer level, definitely tropical storm gust around Stark here. And in fact, before I come back on camera, let me check Bradford weather stem. Let me do that. Let me go ahead and check that on out. Gust of 41 on the Sheriff's Office weather stem. Okay, that backs up the tropical storm force gust. And they might even be a little higher as you go a little bit higher up. But so maybe even, you know, some cases, I mean, like in Gainesville, gust 56, not out of the question even seeing maybe some of that closer into Bradford. As we watch things here, let me go ahead and see where else we want to go with this. We need to come back on camera because, of course, we're in a situation where we could end up losing power and then we'll be off camera in that set of circumstances more than likely. So maybe able to, you know, depending on how things are, get on camera a little bit there. But, you know, we have that backup system if we need to go to what extreme wind warning continues here. You know, matter of life and death. These winds coming right through very quick. I mean, you know, right there, Newport, St. Marks, even McCullough Beach, some right there, the western parts of the eye wall. Just outside the extreme wind warning, you have areas there on US 98. You have Perry, Boyd, Sadie Grove, Salem, Steenhatchee, and the like getting on in towards some of the worst of this. That wind is really howling outside. I'm looking at my anemometer. If you're wondering why I'm looking at this side here, just to kind of figure out exactly what these gusts are. Again, that wind's howling, but it's a lot more harrowing, a lot worse out to the west with the overall conditions. Another thing I want to look at, and I see the power keep flickering. This might be the storm that knocks us off to go to the backup system. these type of winds. I see a lot of lightning down here. I'll have to watch the backside because some of the models have started to show some more stuff on the backside than we thought we might have earlier on. Kind of depends on the exact track here too, but again, Irma, last one knocked us off. I mean, not when I say off, I mean the power off. We weren't doing cloud weather in 2017 per se, but that was an extended period, a little over 24 hours. But east to start. As we continue here, Perry, Salem, watching very carefully. I'm going up toward Madison and Monticello next a little bit pretty quick, and they may go ahead and call this a landfall here. The way this is doing quick enough now, that center of the eye, they may go ahead and call this a landfall here at our 11 o'clock update. So let me check our other source for that. Let's see here. They don't have that in yet. They may just be kind of waiting right to 11 so they can call that landfall right then. It very well is a possibility as we're looking at this situation. I still see high gust around, you know, the areas that have more sensors, like Brooksville and St. Petersburg. Now a gust in Gainesville at 61 in the last few moments. So this outer periphery here is really kicking up the wind more than, you know, we've really seen here in a while with a storm out towards Stark and Gainesville now. And this, you know, that corridor, I mean, just a little east, I mean, not near as much. So here you're getting the wind from the Atlantic, though, in the pattern. So it's kind of interesting to see how that's set on up. Not the Iowa and Stark, obviously, or Union County, but, you know, a situation where we're still getting some pretty strong winds from a very powerful hurricane, causing power outages here and big problems, you know, further to the west, small problems mostly, but not totally, further off toward the east. So, again, just continuing to track this here as we get, you know, near that landfall, as we keep seeing in the corner of my eye there, some power flickering here and there. Yeah, go to the other radar because, I mean, you're pretty much right there at landfall now. It's coming on shore, and it's going to be a Taylor County landfall. It's a big county, and it's pretty obvious that's what's happening. A Taylor County landfall here. As we're tracking things, as we're monitoring. Obviously, that storm surge has been so terrible towards Cedar Key and the like. Let me see if I can get that pulled back up behind me as we wait for the 11 o'clock update. I know we weren't able to get the camera side a moment ago. You know, either one of them out of Perry. We had those up earlier on, though. I'm just going to go ahead and try to get up some storm surge numbers here. I want to put it up behind me, so it takes our system a second here. We are working it really hard. Okay, this got a gust of 58 St. Augustine, a gust down to 76 in Perry officially. And we also just got the advisory right in that stretch there of Helene, you know, from the Hurricane Center in Miami. They might have just caught it a landfall. Real quick, I have this other source up. Let me see what the surge numbers are now and put this up behind me. And I'm sure they're talking about in that statement where they maybe even calling it a landfall here. And we'll get to that here in just a matter of seconds. But let me pull this up. So this is just, you know, it's a nosedive in the wrong direction with this type of flood. Major flooding in Cedar Key. We're now talking about a situation on the gauge here to kind of get my cursor on in here. You know, we're going to look here and see it's about 8 feet. I'll scroll down, 7.67 feet. That's about a foot over that record in a day, give or take, depending on how you measure it. So that's historic, folks, and it's still going up. The direction of that wind still pushing that on in here, folks. And not good. Not good when you see that. Let's go ahead and step out. And up the coast, the wind direction being a problem here as well. There as well. Okay, they're not calling it a landfall yet. Very close to landfall. Accompanied by catastrophic storm surge and life-threatening winds. The center, even though the storm surge is terrible in Cedar Key, the center is technically 75 miles northwest of Cedar Key and 40 miles southeast of Tallahassee, but Cedar Key's getting it worse because of the, you know, effect of the pattern. Just reading over some of this pressure at 938 millibars. You know, gauge 7.33 feet there, you know, above the mean higher water level. Did we just get an update on that? I saw it flash. Let me go ahead and jump on down here. Okay, maybe not, but okay, just continue to watch that gauge rise. Still could get 15 to 20 feet at Carabel to Swanee River and 10 to 15 Apalachicola to Carabel. We don't have sensors on the other spots up there, really. That's, that's the thing. Now, Appalachia to Carabel, it might be a little east because of this track, but again, some sobering stuff here tonight as we continue to watch this, continue to monitor, continue to give you the very latest. I hear that wind really howling now. Once again in Stark. Just had 32 on the gauge now, which again, another tropical storm type gust when you do that calculation higher up. So it's only at 6 feet. Our anemometer. Let me go back to coverage map. Again, we're in Bradford County. The storm is very close to making landfall in Taylor County. I know pressure out there, with the hurricane 930s, it's 991 here on Stark, but that's still very significant, very low, very severe. I mean, further to the west here, I mean, that's what you expect actually, in maybe a lower hurricane almost with that type of, pressure. Maybe not quite, but, it's in that realm. So that's, still kind of startling to see that, even though it's not, anything to the level we're seeing out toward the west. But again, just continuing to give you the latest here. I'm sure they'll send out an update soon with the official landfall. I mean, getting this on shore, it's gonna be in the path, of it going so quick. It will get it out of these areas, but then it's gonna be about rebuilding once again as we're looking toward the coast. Again, continuing to give you the latest. Let me go ahead and jump on over. You see, that's the radar view. Put myself back in front of the key wall here. In this hurricane situation, and the wind Stark here and all that wind howl, gust, pretty high. I mean, really when you do the math, tropical storm force, as you look at this and you see around Perry there, the winds, hurricane force, measured, but they're worse than this Cat 1 hurricane force for sure. I mean, we lost that camera site there and the like. I know a situation here. You have the eye right over this area. You have the eye wall. As we track this on off forward, there's like Madison and Monticello, and things are going to get worse into that I-10 corridor. So, what we may want to start thinking about those cameras, especially if the ones in Perry don't come back. Let me check for others here in this vicinity with this eye wall. And I mean, let me just check again in Perry, see if we can get something out of there. Now, maybe it says maybe one's working. We'll try it. Okay, our system's trying to say maybe one of them's going to come up, possibly. We'll give it a try here. By the way, gust to 58 in Lake City. This now reported. Okay, it looks like it's a night visitor in black and white. As we go ahead and go on over here. Let's pull this up. Florida 5-1. That's Perry. It's getting worse and worse. We're getting a report, by the way, in Lake City, around or in Winfield in Columbia County, that a possible tornado was reported by the public to dispatch to pass. Maybe it passed over US 41 and near I-10. We haven't had any tornado warnings in that area here. It says it maybe this happened, but they haven't issued a tornado warning that I've seen. I may need to double check that. Make sure we'll check velocity to see if that's in the last few moments. But again, you see things shaking around there. US 1998 at Main Street, as it's kind of in black and white night vision maybe at this point. I need to check. Okay, there is a tornado warning apparently. I see it on our map here. Okay, this came out. They just issued it then. Okay, that's interesting. So you know, just kind of popping out on us there all of a sudden after that confirmation. And as you know, it had come up already in the system before, so there's okay, the radar is not coming across here. That is really not helping us. Let's go back to Tallahassee's view. It's kind of surprising that the radar in Jackson will be down and Moody in this situation. But there's apparently a confirmed tornado over Lake City, so we need to get folks in shelter now. Confirmed tornado on the ground. You know, let's see if we have this other one, another radar view. We also have cameras around here. I may need to try to check those out, but if it just passed over, I mean, 41 near I-10, you know, it could be a situation there where might be a little late for that. But again, this isn't, I don't know why we can't get radars, you know, to work in this situation. This is not good, but okay, we need to get folks in shelter. A confirmed tornado around Lake City here. So at 11:04, a confirmed tornado located near Belmont or 7 miles northeast of White Springs, moving north at 30 miles an hour. Belmont around 11:10 being impacted. I mean, it's already more serious to the west with confirmed tornado-like winds over 50 miles. But this is an area that might not get the tornado-like winds, so this can be, you know, something where you really can tell something happened. And I just don't like the idea of not having a radar out here, because this could be a really weak tornado or a pretty strong tornado. We really don't know because the radar is not working. Let me see if I can pull it up on radar scope real quick. I'm gonna step out of the shot. I just want to make sure that it's down all the way across and not something on my end. But considering here how that tornado warning there came out, you know, after the report, it makes me think that, you know, there's just an issue here overall, because it's hard to track it when we don't have any eyes on it. Yeah, we're not getting anything out of Jacksonville or Moody. I don't think Tampa's going to help us. Tallahassee's not going to really help us here with the storm, you know, bearing down there. It's crazy that the radar is still working, but there's an issue, you know, otherwise. Let me see if I can see if there's been some damage there. Again, you need to take shelter on Lake City. I just don't, you know, I like not knowing exactly what type of, you know, going on here, quite honestly, because the radars are down. That would, you know, help us track this. Again, I-10 there, near I-10 over US 41. Again, a confirmed tornado being reported. Again, take shelter. Okay, having some camera issues there. We'll just, you know, leave it at that for now because we have a new extreme wind warning with guaranteed tornado-like winds are coming on into the picture. Hate to jump away from a confirmed tornado like this that we don't really know exactly what's going on with, but, you know, we have a new extreme wind warning to, you know, tell people about the extreme danger that's headed their way. So let me go ahead and kind of jump sources here. In just a moment, we got about, you know, 10 things going on at one time here. Again, take shelter in that purple box. Reports of a confirmed tornado. We have no idea the strength. You know, the report's very, you know, broad in nature, and the radars are just not communicating there, it seems, on any source in this area. So we're blind right now, but apparently there's a tornado that's been on the ground around Lake City over the last few moments here. So I hope you guys, you know, at this point are taking shelter, but apparently, I know we have a hurricane warning, so you're taking shelter anyway, but it still would be nice to be able to pinpoint that. So let's go ahead. I could understand it more out of the Tallahassee office, you know, but it looked like it's more of a communication issue with Moody and Jackson were both down. So let's go ahead and pull up here extreme wind warning. You can see looking there, this is where we could have just the extreme damage here, a new extreme wind warning now. As we look ahead, again, these extreme winds coming on in, catastrophic winds coming on in toward the picture. Let's go ahead, you know, continue to watch that. And then come back on camera here. So this extreme wind warning from Thomasville through Valdosta over in the Naylor there. We're talking about a scenario here where things could just be, blown apart. Mobile homes, talking about cars being flipped. I haven't even talked about that, but cars could be flipped over, just like they probably have been and are being flipped toward the south. So again, as we continue to watch here, we hope folks are taking this as if there's a tornado headed their way, because it's tornado-like winds, winds over 100 miles an hour, gonna be stretching there from areas of Thomas County over there through the Valdosta area. This is gonna cause immense damage here, folks. You gotta treat this like it's a matter of life and death, because it is a matter of life and death. As that eye wall comes on up into these areas, and this extreme wind warning goes into 2 a.m. So again, this is an extraordinarily dangerous situation here as we're looking, as we're monitoring. I'm watching our wind streets start, nothing like that. They're getting out of the west, but things just blowing around 32 on the gauge here recently at our lower level. But these are tropical storm gusts that are really loud. I haven't really heard stuff like this in dark in a while. Probably, maybe since Irma back in 2017. Not to that level, at this point, may not get to that level here on Starkland, toward that it wouldn't. We're not under a hurricane warning here, tropical storm warning, but still nasty, nasty weather. Don't want to be out tonight around Stark, but, obviously that applies even more so further west. And this extreme wind warning is so bad, to be in areas. Hira's in here. You have all these towns: Dawesville, Thomasville, Metcalf. You have Barwick, Quitman. You have Hira, Barrett, Valdosta, Dasher, Lake Park. Could be pretty much blown apart. Naylor. It's not good. Extreme winds that are problematic. It's just an awful sight that we're going to be waking up to as we look at the damage. Valdosta, in Thomasville, even more populated, I would say, than Perry. I mean, this is a warning with almost 185,000 folks, and the storm's moving so quick. The winds are just going to cause immense damage in these more populated areas. Maybe missing downtown Tallahassee with the very worst, but maybe not missing downtown Thomasville and downtown Valdosta. So, really serious stuff. If you're in Thomasville right now, Valdosta, all in between, get in that interior room. It's like a tornado's headed your way, because these are tornado-like winds over a 50-mile area. Winds over 100, blowing off roofs. Put that bicycle helmet on, football helmet on. We're saying the same stuff we did for the other two extreme wind warnings. These are just extraordinary warnings of extreme danger that they, indicate. Move to an interior room now. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back on over to that tornado warning. As we're tracking Columbia County, again, we have that tornado warning. Again, the radars are down, but there's been a report of a tornado on the ground here. As we're looking there, Columbia and Hamilton under this emergency management reporting the tornado. It was located near Belmont, or 7 miles northeast of White Springs, moving north at 30 miles an hour. I know we have this radar view, but it's coming from Tallahassee, so we can't see any of the finer details, especially the hurricane in between. Moody site we normally use there, or Jacksonville. We're not able to know what's happening, but we know that there's problems, and the convection's probably a little bit heavier in here than it shows up on this, because we're not getting the feed out of here right now. So this is probably a little heavier based on what I'm hearing in the wind. As we're just going to do flash flood warning until 5:15 for portions of Berrien, Brooks, Colquitt, Grady, over toward Lanier, Lowndes, Mitchell, and Thomas counties. So again, that's important and take note of here as we're watching things. Oh, we just got a gust here in Stark now, even stronger.